A woman in a green Valentino dress is dancing with a man who isn't her husband, while her husband's financial empire
What are you
crumbles
writing?
before hundreds of Wall Street tycoons.
Just thoughts. Why?
It's not betrayal. It's perfectly orchestrated justice. This is the story of Vivian Shaw, a woman who spent 22 years trying to be the perfect wife until a bill fell from her husband's jacket pocket and turned her into the coldest destroyer Manhattan had ever seen. Follow this story to the end, hit like, and comment with the city you're watching from so I know how far this story has come. The receipt was cream-colored, expensive-looking, the kind of paper that came from restaurants where they didn't list prices on the menu. It slipped out of Gregory's coat pocket Tuesday morning while Vivian was checking for dry cleaning tags, and for 3 full seconds she just stared at it lying there on the marble floor of their bedroom like a small white knife. She didn't pick it up immediately. Her hand hovered over it, fingers trembling in a way that made her angry at herself. 22 years of marriage, and she was shaking over a piece of paper. But she knew. God, she already knew. The receipt was from Aurélie, that French place in Tribeca where Gregory claimed he never went because he hated the pretentious wine list. Dinner for 2, vintage Veuve Clicquot, $240 just for the champagne. The date was last Thursday, the night he'd told her he was working late on the Zurich merger. Vivian picked it up. Her hands had stopped shaking. That was worse somehow. There was a note on the back, handwritten in looping feminine script. Thank you for a perfect evening. C, just the letter C, not even a full name, like she didn't matter enough to sign completely. Vivian stood there in her silk robe in the bedroom of their Ashmere Drive estate, holding a receipt that cost more than most people spent on groceries in a month, and something inside her went very still and very cold. She'd known about the affairs before. Of course she had. You didn't stay married to Gregory Shaw for over 2 decades without developing a certain radar for his patterns. The late nights that smelled like unfamiliar perfume, the suddenly passionate interest in morning showers, the way he'd fuck her with his eyes closed, like he was thinking of someone else. She'd survived those, buried them. Reminded herself that marriage at this level wasn't about romance. It was about partnership, legacy, the careful architecture of a life built on money and reputation and the right last name. But this felt different. This felt deliberate. Vivian walked to her closet and slipped the receipt into the pocket of a jacket she never wore. Then she went downstairs and made Gregory's coffee exactly the way he liked it. 2 sugars, cream to the first line on the cup, and when he came down 20 minutes later, she kissed his cheek and asked about his day. Busy, he said, not looking at her. He was scrolling through his phone already, the Wall Street Journal folded under his arm. The Singapore deal is imploding. I might need to fly out Friday. Do you need me to come with you? No. Too quick. It's just business, boring stuff. Vivian smiled. Of course. She watched him drink his coffee, watched him check his Patek Philippe watch, watched him exist in her kitchen like a stranger who'd learned his lines but forgotten why he was supposed to care about the performance. When he left, she didn't cry. She went upstairs, got dressed in a charcoal Armani suit that made her look like exactly what she was, a woman with money and taste and absolutely nothing to prove to anyone. Then she called her driver and told him she needed to go into the city. Where to, Mrs. Shaw? I'll tell you when we get there. The thing about being married to someone like Gregory was that you learned things. You learned which attorneys handled discreet divorces for the wives of powerful men. You learned which private investigators didn't ask questions. You learned the names of the people who could make problems disappear quietly, efficiently, and without leaving fingerprints. Vivian had never needed those names before. She needed them now. The driver took her to a small office building in Midtown, the kind of place that looked boring and forgettable on purpose. 3rd floor, Suite 307. No name on the door. Inside, a woman with steel gray hair and expensive shoes looked up from her desk. I need to find out who my husband is sleeping with, Vivian said. The woman didn't blink. Sit down, Mrs. Shaw. Vivian hadn't given her name. That was when she realized this wasn't the first time someone had sent a desperate wife to this office. Maybe it wasn't even the 10th time. There was probably a whole network of women like her, women who'd performed perfection for years until the performance stopped being enough. The investigator's name was Helen Marsh. She was 60-something, wore no wedding ring, and had the kind of face that looked like it stopped being surprised by human behavior sometime in the 90s. Your husband is Gregory Shaw, Helen said. It wasn't a question. Shaw Capital, big donor to the Whitmore Foundation. Married 22 years, no children. That's right. And you want to know about the affair? Vivian set her purse on the desk between them. I want to know everything. Helen leaned back in her chair. Everything is expensive, Mrs. Shaw. I don't care what it costs. It's not just money. Helen's eyes were sharp, assessing. Once you know everything, you can't unknow it. Some women prefer the uncertainty. It's softer than the truth. I'm not interested in soft. Something flickered in Helen's face. Maybe respect, maybe pity. All right. Give me a week. Vivian left the office feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because she'd done something. Heavier because now there was no going back to pretending everything was fine. She told the driver to take her to Bergdorf's. She needed to buy a dress for the Whitmore Foundation gala in 3 weeks. Gregory insisted they go every year. It was important for appearances, for networking, for maintaining the illusion that they were still the golden couple of Manhattan's financial elite. The personal shopper brought out a dozen options. Vivian tried on a midnight blue Dior, a champagne-colored Oscar de la Renta, a black Givenchy that made her look like she was attending a funeral. Then the shopper came back with a green Valentino. This just came in, she said. I thought of you immediately. Vivian looked at it. Forest green silk, cut on the bias, with a neckline that suggested elegance without screaming for attention. It was devastating in a quiet way, the kind of dress that made you look twice because you couldn't quite figure out why the woman wearing it seemed so untouchable. She tried it on. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, but because for the first time in years she looked like someone who mattered outside of being Gregory Shaw's wife. I'll take it, she said. When she got home that evening, Gregory was already there, which was unusual. He was in his study with the door half open, talking on the phone in that low, careful voice he used when he didn't want to be overheard. Vivian walked past without stopping. She'd learned a long time ago that the fastest way to make Gregory suspicious was to show interest in his business calls. But she heard fragments anyway. Can't keep doing this. Getting too complicated. After the gala, I promise. Vivian kept walking, upstairs, into her dressing room. She hung up the green Valentino and stared at it for a long time. After the gala. Whatever Gregory was planning, it was tied to that night. She just didn't know what it was yet. Masisi. The week passed slowly. Vivian performed her role flawlessly. The attentive wife, the gracious hostess, the woman who asked the right questions and laughed at the right moments, and never, ever let anyone see the machinery working underneath. On Thursday night, Gregory told her he was going to dinner with clients. She kissed him goodbye and watched him leave in his Mercedes, and then she sat alone in their enormous living room with a glass of wine she didn't drink and waited for the silence to stop feeling like drowning. Her phone buzzed at 9:15. A text from Helen Marsh. We need to meet. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Same place. Vivian deleted the message immediately. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed next to Gregory. He'd come home after midnight, smelling like wine and something floral that definitely wasn't her perfume, and stared at the ceiling and tried to remember when exactly she'd stopped being a person and started being a piece of furniture in her own life. The next afternoon, she went back to Suite 307. Helen had a file waiting on her desk. Not a thick one, just thick enough to ruin everything. Her name is Celeste Lane, Helen said. 29, MBA from Columbia. She's been working at Shaw Capital for 8 months. Vivian's stomach dropped. She works for him? Junior associate, investment analysis. Helen slid a photograph across the desk. This was taken last Tuesday at Aurelie. The woman in the photo was beautiful in that specific way that made Vivian feel ancient. Blonde, flawless skin. The kind of youth that didn't need expensive creams or Botox or strategic lighting to look perfect. She was leaning across the table toward Gregory, laughing at something he'd said, and Gregory was looking at her like she'd invented happiness. There's more, Helen said quietly. She slid another photograph across. This one was from outside a hotel, The Mark, on East 77th. Gregory and Celeste walking in together at 11 p.m. Another photo. The two of them leaving an apartment building in Chelsea at 7 a.m. Another. Gregory's hand on the small of her back at a coffee shop. How long? Vivian's voice sounded strange to her own ears. 6 months. Maybe longer. It's hard to pin down exactly when it started. 6 months. Half a year. Christmas. New Year's. Her birthday. All those mornings when Gregory had kissed her forehead and told her she looked beautiful, and she'd believed that maybe they were okay. Maybe they'd survive this rough patch. Maybe marriage was just about endurance, and they were both good at enduring things. He'd been fucking a 29-year-old the entire time. There's something else. Helen's voice was gentle now, which somehow made it worse. He's been moving money, large amounts, transferring funds to offshore accounts through the firm. I can't prove what it's for yet, but the pattern suggests he's preparing for something big. Like what? Like making sure his assets are protected in a divorce. The words hit Vivian like a physical blow. She'd thought she was investigating him. He'd been preparing to leave her. When? Vivian asked. I don't know, but based on the timing of the transfers and some calendar items I was able to access. Helen hesitated. I think he's planning to announce something at the Whitmore Gala. The room tilted slightly. The Gala, the biggest social event of the season. Every major player in Manhattan finance would be there. The press, the photographers, the people who decided who mattered and who didn't. Gregory wasn't just planning to leave her. He was planning to humiliate her in front of everyone who'd ever envied their marriage. What do you want to do, Mrs. Shaw? Vivian looked at the photographs spread across Helen's desk. Gregory's face in every single one. Happy. Alive. More present with this stranger than he'd been with his own wife in years. I want you to find out everything else, Vivian said. Every account, every transfer, every lie. If he's breaking the law, I want proof. If he's hiding money, I want records. If he's planning to destroy me, I want to know exactly how. Helen nodded slowly. That kind of investigation will require some unconventional resources. I don't care. I'm talking about people who operate outside normal legal channels, Mrs. Shaw. People who can access information that wouldn't hold up in court. People who... I don't care, Vivian said again. Her voice was perfectly calm. Whatever it takes. Helen studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled out a business card. Plain white, no name, just a phone number written in pen. Call this number, she said. Tell them Helen sent you. They'll set up a meeting. Who are they? People who help women like you make sure the divorce doesn't go the way your husband planned. Vivian took the card. The number felt heavy in her hand, like it weighed more than paper should. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet. Helen's expression was unreadable. This path gets dark very quickly. Make sure you're ready before you start walking. Vivian stood up, smoothed her skirt, met Helen's eyes with something that felt like the first honest thing she'd done in years. I'm ready, she said. But that night, Gregory came home early. Vivian was in the kitchen pretending to care about the dinner their chef had prepared. Chilean sea, bass, roasted asparagus, some kind of reduction that probably cost $50 a spoonful. You look nice, Gregory said, kissing her cheek. She'd worn a cream cashmere sweater and tailored pants. Nothing special. The fact that he'd noticed meant he was feeling guilty. Thank you, she said. Wine? Please. They sat across from each other at the dining room table, like actors in a play about marriage. Vivian cut her fish into precise pieces. Gregory talked about the Singapore deal, the problems with their London office, some new hire who was already making waves. Her name's Celeste, he said casually. Smart kid. Columbia MBA. Really sharp, analytical mind. Vivian's hand didn't shake. That's wonderful. You need good people. She's already catching things our senior analysts missed. Gregory was smiling now, the way he used to smile when he talked about building Shaw Capital from nothing. I'm thinking of promoting her, maybe giving her a bigger role in client relations. Client relations, which meant public-facing, which meant events, galas. Places where Gregory Shaw's new brilliant protege would be photographed next to him, admired by his colleagues, welcomed into his world. Places where Vivian would have to watch it happen. That sounds like a smart move, Vivian said. You've always had good instincts about people. Gregory reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I'm glad you think so. His touch made her skin crawl. After dinner, they went upstairs together. Gregory kissed her, actually kissed her, the way he used to. And for one terrible moment, Vivian wondered if maybe she was wrong. Maybe the photos were misleading. Maybe there was an explanation that would make everything make sense again. Then Gregory's phone buzzed. He pulled away, glanced at the screen, and his entire face changed, softened, lit up from inside. "Sorry," he said. "I need to take this work thing." He walked into his dressing room and closed the door. Vivian heard his voice go low and warm. "Hey you, no, I can talk." She got into bed and lay there staring at the ceiling until Gregory came back 20 minutes later and climbed in beside her like nothing had happened. He fell asleep in minutes. Vivian waited until his breathing was deep and even. Then she got up, went downstairs to her office, and dialed the number Helen had given her. It rang 4 times before someone answered. "Yes?" A man's voice, smooth, careful. "Helen Marsh sent me." Silence. Then, "Name?" "Vivian Shaw." More silence. She could hear him typing something, checking something, verifying that she was worth his time. "Tomorrow," he said finally. 4 p.m., the Ellsworth Club. Ask for Michael at the front desk. He'll bring you to the private rooms. "How will I know?" "You won't. That's the point." The line went dead. Vivian stood there in her darkened office, holding the phone and feeling like she'd just stepped off the edge of something she couldn't see the bottom of. She should stop this. Call Helen. Say she'd changed her mind. Go back upstairs and wake up Gregory and tell him she knew everything and demand the truth, and maybe they could find some way to salvage something from the wreckage. Instead, she went back to bed. At 4 the next afternoon, Vivian walked into the Ellsworth Club like she belonged there. It was the kind of place that didn't have signs, didn't advertise, didn't acknowledge its own existence to anyone who hadn't already been invited inside. Old money, old power. The kind of discretion that cost more than most people's houses. Michael at the front desk was exactly what she'd expected. Impeccably dressed, utterly unremarkable, the kind of man who made forgetting his face into an art form. "Mrs. Shaw," he said quietly. "Follow me, please." He led her through a hallway lined with oil paintings of men who'd been dead for 100 years, up a narrow staircase, to a door that looked like every other door except for the small bronze number, 7. "He's waiting inside," Michael said, and then he was gone. Vivian knocked. "Come in." She opened the door. The room was small, elegant, anonymous. A desk, 2 chairs, a window overlooking Madison Avenue, and sitting behind the desk was a man who looked like he'd been designed to make powerful women reconsider their life choices. Dark hair going silver at the temples, sharp suit, eyes that looked like they'd already decided whether you were worth listening to before you opened your mouth. "Mrs. Shaw," he said, "please sit." Vivian sat. "My name is Dominic Moretti." He didn't offer his hand. "Helen tells me you're interested in certain information about your husband." "That's right." "And what exactly do you plan to do with this information once you have it?" "I don't know yet." Dominic smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile. "Most women who come here know exactly what they want. They want proof for divorce attorneys, evidence for custody battles, leverage for settlements. But you're not sure yet. Does that matter?" "It matters because I don't work for people who can't make decisions." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Helen says your husband is Gregory Shaw. Shaw Capital. Major player, big connections. The kind of man who doesn't go down easy." "I'm aware." "Are you aware that taking him down might take you down with him? That the scandal will touch everything? Your reputation, your social standing, your entire life as you know it?" "Yes." "And you're willing to risk that?" Vivian met his eyes. "My entire life as I know it is already over. I just didn't realize it until last week." Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Not sympathy exactly. Recognition. "All right," he said. "Here's what I can do. I have people who specialize in financial investigations. Deep background, the kind of work that doesn't show up on official reports. If your husband is hiding money, breaking laws, doing anything that leaves a paper trail, we'll find it. And then you decide what to do with it." He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. "But before we start, you need to understand something. Once we go down this road, there's no going back. You can't unring this bell. If we find what I think we're going to find, your husband's life will be destroyed. Completely. Permanently. No recovery. Good, Vivian said. Dominic studied her for a long moment. Then he slid the folder across the desk. Sign this. It's a consulting agreement. Completely legal, completely boring. It just establishes that you've hired my firm for financial advisory services. Vivian signed without reading it. How long will this take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. Dominic took the folder back. In the meantime, you need to act completely normal. No changes in behavior, no confrontations, no hints that anything is different. I can do that. Can you? His eyes were sharp now. Because the hardest part isn't getting the information, Mrs. Shaw. The hardest part is living with your husband while you know exactly what he's doing and not letting him see it in your face. Vivian stood up, smoothed her skirt, met Dominic's gaze with something that felt like the first real piece of herself she'd shown anyone in years. I've been living with Gregory Shaw and not letting him see what's in my face for 22 years, she said. 2 more weeks won't kill me. Dominic stood as well. One more thing. If at any point you want to stop, if this gets too hard, too complicated, too dangerous, you call me immediately. No judgment, no questions. We just stop. I won't stop. Everyone says that at the beginning. I'm not everyone. Dominic smiled again, and this time it looked almost genuine. No, he said quietly. I don't think you are. Vivian left the Ellsworth Club feeling like she'd just signed a contract with something darker than lawyers and investigators and people who specialized in destroying powerful men. She felt like she'd signed a contract with herself, the version of herself that had been buried under 22 years of being agreeable and accommodating and willing to ignore anything as long as the lifestyle stayed intact. That version was dead now. What was rising up to replace it was colder, sharper, and absolutely done with being invisible. The next 2 weeks were a performance that deserved awards Vivian would never receive. She smiled at Gregory over breakfast. She asked about his day. She wore the clothes he liked and attended the dinners he needed her at, and laughed at the jokes of men who'd made their fortunes crushing smaller companies under their $1,000 shoes. And every night she went to sleep next to the man who was planning to replace her and felt absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Dominic's people were working. They sent updates through encrypted messages that deleted themselves after Vivian read them. Account numbers from banks in Zurich, wire transfers to shell companies, patterns that suggested Gregory wasn't just cheating, he was stealing from his own firm, from his clients, from pension funds that trusted Shaw Capital to make them whole. The fraud went back years. Carefully hidden, expertly concealed, the kind of financial crime that required real intelligence to pull off. Gregory had always been smart. He'd just never been smart enough to imagine that his wife might be smarter. On Thursday, 12 days after Vivian first walked into Suite 307, she got a message from Dominic. We have everything. Meet me tomorrow at 2. She deleted the message and went downstairs to where Gregory was working in his study. I'm going into the city tomorrow, she said from the doorway. I need to finalize some details for the gala. Gregory barely looked up from his laptop. Sure. Take the driver. I will. Do you need anything while I'm out? No. Thanks, though. She almost asked him then. Almost walked into that study and demanded to know when exactly he'd decided she was disposable. When the woman he'd married, the one who'd believed him when he said they were building something together, had become just another asset to be liquidated when the time was right. But she didn't. She just smiled and said, "Let me know if you change your mind." The next afternoon, she sat across from Dominic in room 7 of the Ellsworth Club while he laid out her husband's crimes like a dealer spreading cards across a table. He's been skimming for at least 5 years, Dominic said, rooting client gains through mirror accounts in Zurich, keeping the profits, bearing the losses in lower-tier investments and pension portfolios. The total is somewhere around $40 million. Vivian felt dizzy. $40 million? Give or take, and here's the really interesting part. Dominic slid a photograph across the desk. Your husband's assistant, Celeste Lane, she's been helping him execute the transfers. Not consciously, I don't think she knows what she's actually doing, but her login credentials show up all over these transactions. Why would he involve her? Plausible deniability. If this ever gets investigated, he can claim she went rogue, that she was the one stealing and he was the victim. Dominic's expression was grim. It's actually pretty brilliant. He gets the money, gets the girl, and sets her up to take the fall if anything goes wrong. Vivian stared at Celeste's photograph. The woman looked younger than 29 in this picture. Hopeful, ambitious. Probably thought Gregory Shaw was her mentor, her champion, the man who saw her potential when nobody else did. She had no idea she was being set up to be destroyed. "What happens if we release this?" Vivian asked. "Federal investigation, criminal charges. SEC gets involved. Shaw Capital implodes. Your husband goes to prison." "And me? You're clean. We made sure of that. All the accounts are in his name. All the transfers were authorized by him. You had no access, no knowledge, no involvement." Dominic leaned forward. "But Vivian, if we do this, your life changes completely. Your social circle will evaporate. The wives who have lunch with you will cross the street when they see you coming. You'll be the woman who destroyed Gregory Shaw." "I can live with that. Can you?" His eyes were searching now. "Because there's another option. We take this information, we give it to your divorce attorney, and you walk away with a settlement that makes you very comfortable for the rest of your life. No scandal, no prison, just a quiet exit." Vivian thought about it. 22 years of marriage dissolved into a wire transfer and a sealed agreement, and the freedom to pretend none of this had ever happened. It would be easier, cleaner, safer. "When is Gregory planning to announce Celeste's promotion?" she asked. Dominic checked his notes. "The Whitmore Gala. He's already scheduled a press release to go out the morning after. Rising star at Shaw Capital, appointed to senior leadership role. There'll be photos of them together, interviews, the works. So he's going to parade her around at the biggest social event of the season and make me watch." "It looks that way, yes." Vivian stood up and walked to the window. Madison Avenue stretched out below. All those people rushing to places they thought mattered, convinced their lives had meaning beyond the next transaction, the next deal, the next betrayal. "I want to release everything at the gala," she said quietly. Dominic went very still. "You want to—" During his speech, he's giving the keynote, right? Something about philanthropy and responsibility and giving back to the community? "Yes. I want the expose to hit every major news outlet in America at exactly the moment he's standing on that stage pretending to be a decent man." Vivian turned around. "Can you do that?" "I can do that." Dominic's voice was careful. "But Vivian, I know what you're going to say, that it's cruel, that it's excessive, that quiet revenge is safer." She walked back to the desk and looked him straight in the eye. "I don't want safe. I want him to feel what I felt when I found that receipt. The exact same humiliation, the exact same shock. I want him to know that I did this, that the wife he thought was too weak to fight back is the reason his entire world is ending." Dominic studied her for a long time. Then he nodded once. "All right," he said. "I'll make it happen." The night after Vivian gave Dominic the green light, she couldn't sleep. Not because of fear. Fear would have been cleaner, easier to name. This was something else. A humming in her blood that felt like anticipation mixed with nausea, like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing the only way forward was to jump. She lay next to Gregory in their king-sized bed and listened to him breathe. Deep, even, the rhythm of a man with a clear conscience. Or no conscience at all. She couldn't tell anymore which one was worse. At 2:30 in the morning, she gave up on sleep entirely. She slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb him, and went downstairs to the kitchen. The marble was cold under her bare feet. She poured herself a glass of water she didn't want and stood at the window looking out at their backyard, 3 acres of landscape perfection that cost more to maintain than most people made in a year. Everything in this house was beautiful. Everything in this house was a lie. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. "Can't sleep either?" She stared at it for a long moment before typing back. "How did you know? Everyone gets cold feet right before the jump. It's normal. I'm not getting cold feet. Then what are you doing awake at 2:30 a.m.? Vivian set down her water glass. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened window. A woman in a silk nightgown standing in a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine spread about aspirational living. She typed, "Making sure I remember why I'm doing this." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "And do you?" Vivian thought about the receipt. The photographs. Celeste Lane's face laughing across a table at a man who'd promised to love Vivian until death. Gregory's hand on that woman's back. The wire transfers, the stolen millions, the carefully constructed plan to make Vivian disappear while he rebuilt his life with someone younger, prettier, more convenient. Yes, she typed. I remember. Good. Get some sleep. You'll need it. She deleted the conversation and went back upstairs. Gregory was still asleep. She stood in the doorway watching him for a long time, trying to find some trace of the man she'd married. The one who'd held her hand at her mother's funeral and told her they'd get through it together. The one who'd looked at her on their wedding day like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. That man was gone. Maybe he'd never existed at all. Maybe she'd just been performing a role so well that she'd convinced herself the audience actually loved her. Mbokak. The next morning, Gregory came downstairs whistling. Vivian was already in the breakfast room, coffee in hand, Wall Street Journal spread out in front of her like she'd been reading it. She hadn't absorbed a single word. Morning, Gregory said, kissing the top of her head. Morning. He poured himself coffee, started scrolling through his phone, the same routine they'd performed 1,000 times. I need to talk to you about the gala, he said. Vivian looked up. What about it? I want you to wear something really special. This is a big night for the firm. He was smiling, that easy, confident smile that had probably charmed 100 boardrooms. I'm announcing some major changes. New direction for Shaw Capital. I want you to look incredible. I already have a dress. Which one? The green Valentino. Something flickered across Gregory's face. That's perfect. You look amazing in green. He meant it. That was the worst part. He actually wanted her to look beautiful while he destroyed her. I'm bringing Celeste to the gala, Gregory added, casual as ordering breakfast. The new associate I told you about. She's worked really hard on the restructuring plans, and I want her to get some visibility. Vivian's hand tightened around her coffee cup. That's generous of you. She's earned it. Gregory was still smiling. Actually, I was thinking maybe you could spend some time with her at the event. You know, introduce her around, help her feel comfortable. She's young. She doesn't know many people in this world yet. The audacity of it took Vivian's breath away. He wanted her to mentor his mistress, to smooth the way for her replacement, to perform graciousness while he paraded another woman in front of Manhattan's elite. Of course, Vivian heard herself say. I'd be happy to. You're the best. Gregory squeezed her shoulder. I don't tell you that enough, but you are. I couldn't do any of this without you. He left for the office 20 minutes later. Vivian sat in the breakfast room until her coffee went cold, staring at nothing, feeling something dark and final settling into her bones. She pulled out her phone and texted Dominic. He just asked me to mentor her at the gala. The response came back immediately. Jesus Christ, I told him I would. You're stronger than I thought. Vivian stared at those words. Stronger than I thought. Like strength was something you discovered by accident. Like you didn't know you had it until someone pushed you far enough that the only choice was to push back or disappear entirely. I'm not strong, she typed. I'm just done. Helen Marsh called that afternoon. I have more, she said without preamble. Things Dominic's people didn't catch. Tell me. Your husband has been looking at real estate, penthouse in Tribeca, $3 million. He hasn't bought it yet, but he's had his attorney draw up papers for an LLC purchase. Vivian closed her eyes. For Celeste. That would be my guess. There's also a prenup consultation in his calendar from 3 weeks ago. Different attorney than the one who handled your marriage. He's planning to marry her. Eventually, yes. But here's what's interesting. The prenup notes suggest he's planning to finalize your divorce before the fiscal year ends. That's 6 weeks away. 6 weeks. A month and a half. That's how long Vivian had left before Gregory Shaw officially erased her from his life. Why so fast? She asked. Tax purposes, probably. Clean break before year-end filings. Less complicated. Helen's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, Vivian. I know this isn't easy to hear. It's fine. It's not fine, but I understand what you're doing. A pause. Dominic called me. Told me about the plan for the gala. Are you sure about this? Yes. Because there are other ways, I'm sure. Helen sighed. All right. Then I want you to be prepared for what comes after. The press will be vicious. Your friends will scatter. You'll be the woman who destroyed her husband. And in certain circles, that's worse than being the woman who got cheated on. I know. Do you? Because Vivian, once this happens, you can't take it back. You can't apologize your way back into their good graces. You'll be radioactive. Good, Vivian said. I don't want their good graces. I want them to know what he really is. Even if it means they know what you're capable of too? Vivian thought about that. About the Vivian who'd existed 3 weeks ago, the one who smiled through everything, who never made scenes, who believed that dignity meant suffering silently. That Vivian was dead. Especially then, she said. The days blurred together. Vivian moved through her life like a ghost haunting her own existence. She attended a luncheon for the Whitmore Foundation, where women in $1,000 dresses discussed charity work over $60 salads. She smiled and nodded and wrote a check and didn't hear a single word anyone said. At night, Gregory would come home late, and Vivian would be waiting with dinner and questions about his day, and he would lie to her face with the ease of someone who'd been practicing. "How's the Singapore deal?" she'd ask. "Complicated, but we're getting there." "And the new associate, Celeste?" "Doing great. Really impressive work ethic." Work ethic. Like that's what he was fucking her for. One night, 8 days before the gala, Gregory's phone rang during dinner. He glanced at the screen and his whole face changed, softened, became someone Vivian didn't recognize. "I need to take this," he said, standing up. "Of course." He walked into his study and closed the door. Vivian sat at the dining room table, finishing her wine and listening to the muffled sound of Gregory's voice going warm and low through the walls. When he came back 10 minutes later, he looked guilty. "Everything okay?" Vivian asked. "Yeah, just client stuff." "At 8 p.m.? "Hong Kong." He sat back down. "Different time zones." Vivian nodded like she believed him. That night in bed, Gregory tried to touch her, actually reached for her like they were still two people who desired each other instead of strangers performing a script nobody believed anymore. "I'm tired," Vivian said. "Come on." His hand moved to her waist. "We haven't in a while." "I said I'm tired." Gregory pulled back. "Is something wrong?" "Yes," Vivian wanted to scream. "Everything is wrong. You're fucking someone else. You're planning to leave me. You're stealing from your clients and setting up your mistress to take the fall, and you're asking me to wear a pretty dress while you announce it all to the world." "No," she said. "I'm just exhausted. The gala planning has been a lot." "I appreciate everything you do." Gregory kissed her forehead. "I know I don't say it enough." He fell asleep 10 minutes later. Vivian lay awake until 3 a.m. Dominic called the next afternoon. "We need to meet. Something's come up." "What?" "Not over the phone. Can you get into the city?" "When?" "Now." Vivian told Gregory's assistant she had a hair appointment, took the car into Manhattan, walked into the Ellsworth Club trying to look like a woman who wasn't about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Dominic was waiting in room 7. He looked tense. "What happened?" Vivian asked. "Sit down." She sat. Dominic slid a folder across the desk. "My people found something else. Something we missed before." Vivian opened the folder. Inside was a medical record from a fertility clinic in Connecticut. Her hands started shaking before she even read the details. Gregory had gone to a fertility specialist 6 months ago. With Celeste Lane. Consultation for in vitro fertilization, genetic screening, embryo storage. "He wants children with her," Vivian whispered. "It looks that way, yes." The room tilted. Vivian gripped the edge of the desk to keep from sliding off the chair. She'd wanted children, had begged Gregory for years. He'd always said no. The timing wasn't right. The firm needed his attention. They'd talk about it later, maybe next year, maybe when things settled down. 22 years of maybe later. And now he was planning a family with a woman he'd known for 8 months. "I'm going to be sick," Vivian said. Dominic handed her a trash can. She didn't throw up. But she sat there clutching the metal rim and breathing hard and feeling something inside her chest crack open like a fault line. "I'm sorry," Dominic said quietly. "I know this is—" "Don't!" Vivian's voice came out sharp. "Don't apologize. Don't tell me it's going to be okay. Just don't." He went silent. Vivian stared at the medical records until the words stopped making sense. Then she closed the folder very carefully and slid it back across the desk. "Is the plan still in place for the gala?" she asked. "Yes. Everything's ready. The expose will hit at 9:43 during his speech. Major outlets have embargoed copies. SEC has been given advance notice. It's all timed to detonate simultaneously." "Good." "Vivian." "What?" Dominic leaned forward. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Are you doing this because you want justice, or because you want him to hurt the way you're hurting?" Vivian met his eyes. "Does it matter?" "It might. Because if this is about pain, about making him suffer, then you need to be prepared for how empty it's going to feel when it's over. Revenge doesn't fix anything. It doesn't heal the wound. It just makes sure someone else bleeds too." "You think I don't know that?" "I think you're in so much pain right now that you'd burn down the world if it meant he had to watch." Vivian stood up. Her legs felt unsteady. "You're right. I am in that much pain, and yes, I want him to suffer. I want him to stand on that stage in front of everyone he's ever tried to impress and watch his entire life explode. I want him to know it was me. I want him to feel exactly as powerless and humiliated and disposable as I've felt for the last 3 weeks. And then what? And then I move on." "Just like that?" "No." Vivian's voice cracked. "Not just like that. It's going to take years to stop feeling like this. Maybe it'll never stop. But at least I'll know I didn't disappear quietly. At least I'll know I fought back." Dominic studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Then let's make sure it counts." 5 days before the gala, Vivian went to Bergdorf's to pick up the green Valentino. The alterations were perfect. The dress fit like it had been designed specifically to make Gregory Shaw regret every choice that led him to this moment. The sales associate smiled. "You're going to be the most beautiful woman at the Whitmore Gala." "Thank you." "Your husband is a lucky man." Vivian's reflection stared back at her from the three-way mirror. She looked elegant, composed, exactly like the kind of woman who would never cause a scene. "Yes," she said. "He is." That night, Gregory brought Celeste home for dinner. He called Vivian that afternoon to give her exactly 2 hours' notice. "I thought it would be nice for you two to meet before the gala. You know, break the ice." Vivian stood in the kitchen, gripping her phone so hard her knuckles went white. "Of course," she heard herself say. "That's a lovely idea." She told their chef to prepare something impressive. Duck confit, roasted vegetables, a wine pairing that probably cost more than Celeste's monthly rent. At 7 p.m., Gregory's car pulled into the driveway. Vivian checked her reflection one more time. Navy cashmere dress, simple jewelry, elegant and non-threatening, the perfect hostess. The front door opened. Gregory walked in first, all smiles and confidence. "Vivian, this is Celeste Lane." "Celeste, my wife Vivian." Celeste was even more beautiful in person, 29 years old and glowing with it. Blonde hair, perfect skin, a nervous smile that probably made men want to protect her. "Mrs. Shaw." Celeste extended her hand. "It's such an honor to meet you. Gregory talks about you constantly." Vivian shook her hand, smiled, felt nothing. "Please call me Vivian, and welcome to our home." They moved into the living room. Gregory poured drinks, scotch for himself, wine for the women. Vivian watched Celeste look around at the art, the furniture, the carefully curated evidence of wealth and taste. "Your home is beautiful," Celeste said. "Thank you. We've been here 15 years. Gregory told me you designed most of the interior yourself." "I had help, but yes, I was involved." They sat down. Gregory positioned himself between them like a referee at a boxing match. "Celeste has been doing incredible work on the restructuring," Gregory said. "I don't know what I'd do without her." Celeste blushed. Actually blushed. "You're too kind. I'm just trying to learn from the best." Vivian sipped her wine and watched them. The way Gregory looked at Celeste, the way Celeste looked back. They weren't even trying to hide it. Or maybe they were, and they were just bad at it. Or maybe they thought Vivian was too stupid to notice. "How did you end up at Shaw Capital?" Vivian asked. "Columbia's MBA program has a partnership with the firm," Celeste said. I did my thesis on emerging market investment strategies, and Gregory, Mr. Shaw, offered me a position after graduation. That must have been exciting. It was a dream come true, working for Shaw Capital, learning from someone like Gregory. I still can't believe it's real sometimes. She meant it. Vivian could see it in her face. Celeste Lane actually believed she'd earned this position through merit, that Gregory Shaw had chosen her for her brilliant analytical mind and nothing else. She had no idea she was a prop in someone else's script. Dinner was excruciating. They sat at the long table in the dining room, Gregory at the head, Vivian to his right, Celeste to his left, like they were already rehearsing for the new arrangement. Gregory talked about the firm, about the Zurich expansion, about his vision for the next 5 years. Celeste listened like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. Vivian ate duck and smiled and made appropriate comments and counted down the minutes until this nightmare ended. At one point, Celeste turned to her directly. Gregory tells me you're very involved in charity work. Some, the Whitmore Foundation mostly. That's wonderful. I've always admired women who use their position to give back. Celeste's eyes were earnest. It must be so fulfilling. Vivian set down her fork very carefully. It is. Although sometimes I wonder if we're actually helping or just making ourselves feel better about the inequality we benefit from. Silence dropped over the table like a theater curtain. Gregory laughed nervously. Vivian's our resident philosopher. No, Vivian said. I'm just realistic about what charity means when you're writing the check from a penthouse. Celeste looked uncomfortable. I didn't mean to suggest. You didn't suggest anything. I'm just tired of pretending wealthy people throwing galas for causes they don't understand is the same thing as actual change. Okay? Gregory's voice had an edge now. I think maybe we should talk about something else. Vivian smiled. Of course. What would you like to talk about? The rest of dinner passed in strained small talk about the weather, upcoming holidays, safe topics that couldn't detonate the carefully maintained fiction that this was a normal evening with a normal colleague. When Celeste finally left at 9:30, Gregory walked her to the door while Vivian stayed in the living room finishing her wine. She heard them talking in the foyer, low voices, Gregory's laugh, the front door opening and closing. Then Gregory came back in. That was rude, he said. Vivian looked up. What was? The thing about charity. You made her uncomfortable. Did I? Yes, she was trying to be nice and you turned it into some political statement. I wasn't aware having an opinion was political. Gregory poured himself another scotch. You know what I mean. She's young. She's trying to make a good impression. You didn't have to make it difficult. I was perfectly pleasant. You were cold. Vivian stood up, set down her wine glass, walked to where Gregory was standing and looked him straight in the eye. You brought your mistress into our home, she said quietly. You made me sit across the table from the woman you're planning to replace me with and smile while she complimented my charity work. And you're upset that I wasn't warm enough? Gregory went very still. What are you talking about? Don't. Vivian's voice was shaking now. Don't insult me by pretending. I know about Celeste. I know about Aurélie. I know about the hotel. I know about all of it. The silence that followed felt like falling. Gregory's face did something complicated, shock, then calculation, then something that looked almost like relief. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough? And you didn't say anything. What was I supposed to say? Vivian heard her voice rising and didn't care anymore. Please don't leave me for someone younger. Please remember you once loved me. Please at least have the decency to end this privately instead of parading her around at public events. Vivian, you asked me to mentor her, Gregory. You actually stood in our kitchen and asked me to help smooth the way for my own replacement. Do you have any idea how that felt? It's not like that. Then what is it like? She was shouting now, 22 years of swallowed words coming up all at once. Explain it to me. Make it make sense. Gregory set down his drink, ran his hand through his hair. You're right. I should have told you. I should have been honest. When? When were you planning to be honest? Before or after the gala? Before or after you moved her into that Tribeca penthouse? Before or after you got her pregnant? His face went white. How do you... It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that you've been planning an entire new life while I was sleeping in the same bed with you every night. What matters is that you looked at me every morning for months and lied to my face. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me. Vivian laughed, high and sharp. Gregory, you've been systematically erasing me from your life for half a year. You just wanted to do it quietly so you didn't look like the bad guy. He didn't deny it. That was worse than anything else. The fact that he couldn't even pretend she was wrong. I was going to tell you after the gala, Gregory said finally. I was going to sit you down and explain everything and make sure you were taken care of financially. Taken care of? Vivian's voice dropped to something cold and precise. Like I'm a problem that needs managing. That's not what I meant. Get out. Vivian, get out of this room. Go sleep somewhere else. I don't want to look at you right now. Gregory stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly and walked toward the stairs. At the doorway, he turned back. For what it's worth, I really did love you. Once. Get the fuck out, Gregory. He left. Vivian stood in the living room until she heard the guest room door close upstairs. Then she walked to the bar, poured herself another glass of wine, and called Dominic. He answered on the first ring. What happened? I told him, I know. Silence. Vivian, I couldn't help it. He brought her here, made me sit through dinner with her, and then he had the audacity to tell me I was rude. Did you tell him about the plan? No, just that I know about the affair. How did he react? Like a man who got caught but isn't particularly sorry about it. Vivian's hands were shaking again. He said he was going to tell me after the gala, like that makes it better, like the timing is the problem and not the entire betrayal. Are you okay? No. Her voice cracked. No, I'm really not. Do you want me to come over? Vivian looked around at the living room. All this beautiful furniture, these expensive paintings, this carefully constructed monument to a marriage that had been dead for years. No, she said. I want you to make absolutely sure everything is ready for the gala. I want to destroy him so completely that he spends the rest of his life wishing he'd just been honest. It's ready. Everything's in place. Good. Vivian, what? Dominic hesitated. Make sure this is what you really want. Because after tonight, after he knows you know, he's going to be watching you, waiting for you to make a move. If you're going to back out, now is the time. Vivian thought about Celeste Lane sitting at her table, complimenting her home, completely unaware that Gregory was planning to give her a version of this exact life. Thought about the medical records, the fertility consultations, the future Gregory was building while Vivian's was being systematically dismantled. I'm not backing out, she said. I'm going to put on that green dress and walk into the Whitmore ballroom and watch Gregory Shaw's empire burn to the ground. And I'm going to smile the entire time. All right then. Dominic's voice was quiet. I'll see you at the gala. Vivian hung up. She finished her wine. Then she went upstairs, walked past the closed guest room door where her husband was sleeping, and lay down in their empty bed. For the first time in 3 weeks, she slept through the night. Folks, the next 4 days passed in a strange calm. Gregory moved back into their bedroom like nothing had happened. They didn't talk about the confrontation. Didn't mention Celeste. Performed the routine of marriage like actors who'd forgotten they were supposed to be in love, but still remembered all their blocking. At breakfast, Gregory would ask about Vivian's day. She would ask about his meetings. They would eat in silence and then go their separate ways. At night, they would lie on opposite sides of the bed and pretend to sleep. It was the loneliest Vivian had ever felt in her entire life. 2 days before the gala, Gregory's assistant called to confirm that Vivian's car would pick her up at 6 p.m. for hair and makeup. Mr. Shaw wants to make sure you have plenty of time to get ready, the assistant said. He's very excited about the event. I'm sure he is. The day before the gala, Vivian met Dominic one final time. They sat in room 7 while rain hammered against the windows, and Dominic walked her through the exact timeline. 6 p.m. you arrive at the venue, he said. Gregory's speech is scheduled for 9:30. At 9:43, Bloomberg, Reuters, Wall Street Journal, and the Financial Times will simultaneously publish the exposé. The SEC has been briefed and will announce an investigation within the hour. By 10 p.m., Shaw Capital will be trending on every financial news platform in the country. And Celeste? She'll be named as an accomplice, but the evidence shows she likely didn't know what she was executing. She'll probably avoid criminal charges, but her career in finance is over. Vivian felt a flicker of something that might have been guilt. Celeste was a pawn in this, young and stupid and in love with a man who was using her. But Vivian pushed the feeling down. Celeste had made her choices. They both had. "What about me?" Vivian asked. "Where will I be during all this?" Dominic met her eyes. "That depends. Do you want to be standing next to Gregory when it happens? Or do you want to be somewhere else?" Vivian thought about it. Thought about watching Gregory's face as he realized what was happening, seeing the exact moment he understood that his wife had orchestrated his destruction. "I want to be in the ballroom," she said, "but not with him." "With who then?" She looked at Dominic, really looked at him. This man who'd helped her dismantle her husband's life piece by piece, who'd listened to her cry on the phone at 2 a.m., who'd never once suggested she should just take the quiet settlement and disappear. "With you," she said. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. "Vivian, I know what you're going to say, that it's not professional, that it blurs the lines, that you're just helping me because it's what you do." "That's not what I was going to say." "Then what?" Dominic leaned back in his chair. "I was going to say that when you walk into that ballroom on my arm, everyone is going to know. They're going to put it together immediately. The wife leaving the husband, the scandal, the revenge. It's going to be a story they tell for years." "Good," Vivian said. "Let them tell it. Let them know I didn't disappear quietly. And after? When the dust settles and Gregory's in prison and you're the woman who destroyed him, what then?" "I don't know. I'll figure it out." "We could figure it out together." The words hung in the air between them. Vivian stared at Dominic across the desk. Rain streaked down the windows behind him. Somewhere below, Manhattan was going about its business. Deals and betrayals and carefully constructed lies. "Are you asking me out, Dominic?" "I'm asking if you'd consider the possibility that this doesn't have to end with you alone in a new apartment somewhere rebuilding from scratch. That maybe there's a version of this where you get to start fresh with someone who already knows the worst parts of you and didn't run away." Vivian's throat tightened. "You don't know the worst parts of me." "Yes, I do. I've spent 3 weeks watching you plan your husband's destruction with a level of precision that would terrify most people. I've seen you angry and hurt and vindictive and absolutely ruthless." He leaned forward. "And I'm still here." She couldn't breathe. "I need to destroy my husband first," she said finally. "I need to finish this before I can even think about anything else." "I know. And after, if there is an after, I'm going to be a disaster for a very long time." "I know that too." "Then why?" "Because you're the first woman I've met in 15 years who didn't need me to save her," Dominic said quietly. "You're saving yourself. I'm just providing the tools. And Vivian, that's the most attractive thing I've ever seen." She stood up, walked around the desk, looked down at him sitting in his chair with rainlight catching the silver in his hair. "Tomorrow night," she said, "after Gregory's life ends and before mine starts. Ask me then." Dominic nodded slowly. "All right." Vivian turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. "Dominic?" "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For making me feel like maybe I'm not completely insane for doing this." He smiled. "You're not insane, Vivian. You're just done being invisible." She walked out of the Ellsworth Club into the rain and stood on Madison Avenue letting the water soak through her coat. Tomorrow night, Gregory Shaw would stand on a stage and watch everything he'd built collapse around him. Tomorrow night, Manhattan would know exactly what he was. Tomorrow night, Vivian would walk into the Whitmore ballroom in a green Valentino dress and dance while her husband's empire burned. And somewhere in the wreckage, she'd figure out who she was supposed to be now that she'd stopped being Mrs. Gregory Shaw. The morning of the gala, Vivian woke up at 5 a.m. Gregory was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "Big day." "Yes, it is." He turned to look at her. "Vivian, about what you said the other night, don't. I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you." "And yet," Gregory stood up,
started getting dressed. I'm going into the office early. I'll meet you at the venue tonight. Fine.
He was halfway to the door when he turned back one more time. You look beautiful in that dress, he said. The green one. I always loved you in green. Then he left. Vivian lay in bed staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. At noon, she got a text from Dominic. Everything's ready. Are you? She typed back, yes, see you tonight. Save me a dance. Vivian smiled. Then she got up, showered, and began the process of becoming the woman who would destroy Gregory Shaw. The hairstylist arrived at 3, makeup artist at 4. By 5:30, Vivian was standing in front of her full-length mirror looking at a stranger. The green Valentino fit like revenge. Her hair was swept up, elegant and severe. Her makeup was understated, letting the dress do the talking. She looked like exactly what she was. A woman who'd spent 22 years learning how to move through rooms full of powerful people without making a sound. Tonight, she was going to make them all hear her. The driver arrived at 6. Vivian took one last look around the bedroom, this room where she'd spent 2 decades sleeping next to a man who'd never really seen her. Then she walked downstairs, out the front door, into the car. Where to, Mrs. Shaw? The driver asked. Vivian looked at her reflection in the window. Green dress, perfect hair. The kind of woman people would remember. The Whitmore Foundation Gala, she said, and then quieter to herself. Let's end this. The Whitmore Foundation Gala looked like someone had bottled old money and poured it into a ballroom. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars. Champagne towers that probably cost more than a Honda Civic. Men in tuxedos that fit so perfectly they had to have been custom-made by wizards. Women dripping in diamonds that caught the light and threw it back like tiny weapons. Vivian's car pulled up to the entrance at 6:45. She could see the red carpet stretching up the marble steps, photographers already positioned like snipers waiting for the important arrivals. Her phone buzzed. Dominic. I'm already inside, 3rd floor private lounge, room 12. Come up when you're ready. Vivian typed back, give me 10 minutes. She needed to be seen arriving alone first, needed the photographers to capture Mrs. Gregory Shaw in her green Valentino, solo and stunning, before everything went to hell. The driver opened her door. Vivian stepped out into the evening air and felt every camera lens swing toward her like searchlights. Mrs. Shaw, over here. Vivian, look left. Where's Gregory? She smiled, turned, let them capture her from every angle. The dress moved like water. The photographers ate it up. Mr. Shaw is already inside, she said smoothly. Work emergency. You know how it is. They laughed. Of course they did. Gregory Shaw missing a photo op for business was perfectly on brand. Vivian walked up the red carpet alone, feeling the weight of every eye on her back, and thought about how this would look in tomorrow's papers after everything imploded. The wife arriving solo. The mysterious smile. The green dress that would become iconic for all the wrong reasons. Inside, the ballroom was already half full. She recognized faces immediately. Hedge fund managers, real estate moguls, the kind of people who had summer homes in the Hamptons and winter homes in Aspen and regular homes that cost more than most people would earn in 3 lifetimes. Someone handed her champagne. She took it without drinking. Vivian! A woman in red approached, air kissing both her cheeks. Margaret something. Her husband ran a private equity firm. You look absolutely stunning. That dress is perfection. Thank you. Is Gregory here? I wanted to congratulate him on the Singapore deal. He's around somewhere, Vivian said vaguely. You know how these events are. Margaret laughed and moved on to her next target. Vivian scanned the room. No sign of Gregory yet. No sign of Celeste either. She made her way through the crowd, accepting compliments on her dress, deflecting questions about Gregory's whereabouts, performing the role of the gracious wife one last time. At 7:15, she slipped away from the main ballroom and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The private lounge was quieter. Smaller groups of people having more intimate conversations away from the chaos below. Vivian walked past them like she belonged there. Because she had belonged in rooms like this for 22 years, until she found room 12. She knocked once. Dominic opened the door. He was in a tuxedo that fit him so well it should have been illegal. His hair was pushed back. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes went dark when he saw her. Jesus Christ, he said quietly, is that a professional assessment?
That's a human reaction to a devastating dress. He stepped back to let her in. You look... Don't. Vivian walked into the room and set down her untouched champagne. If you compliment me right now, I'm going to fall apart, and we can't afford that yet. Dominic closed the door. Fair enough. The room was small, elegant, anonymous. A sofa, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the ballroom below where Vivian could see the crowd growing thicker. Is everything ready? She asked. Everything's ready. The embargo breaks at 9:43. I have confirmation from all the major outlets. The SEC has their investigation team on standby. And Gregory? Arrived 20 minutes ago. He's downstairs working the room. Celeste is with him. Something twisted in Vivian's chest. Of course she is. They're not being obvious about it, but yeah, they're together. Vivian walked to the window and looked down. She couldn't make out individual faces from this height, just a mass of expensive clothing and careful social choreography. Somewhere down there, Gregory was laughing with people who thought he was a financial genius. Celeste was probably standing nearby looking impressed and grateful and completely unaware that in 3 hours her life would be destroyed. Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing? Vivian asked quietly. Dominic came to stand beside her. Every day for the last 3 weeks. But you never said anything, because it's not my call to make. This is your life, Vivian, your choice. I'm just providing the tools. She turned to look at him. What would you do? If you were me? I can't answer that. Try. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. I'd probably do exactly what you're doing, but I'd hate myself for it afterward. And I'd wonder if there was a version of this where I walked away instead of burning it all down. You think I should walk away? I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. He met her eyes. Can you sleep knowing you destroyed him? Vivian thought about it. About Gregory's face across the dinner table. About Celeste in their home. About the medical records and the secret penthouse and the 22 years of her life that had been quietly erased while she was busy being the perfect wife. Yes, she said. I can sleep just fine. Dominic nodded slowly. Then we're doing the right thing. They stood there in the window for a while, watching the ballroom fill up below. Not touching, but standing close enough that Vivian could feel the heat coming off him. At 8:30, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Now. Meet me in the West Garden. Come alone. See Vivian's stomach dropped. Celeste. What is it? Dominic asked. She showed him the phone, his expression darkened. Don't go. I have to. Why? She's nobody. She's a pawn in this. Because I need to see her face. Vivian put the phone in her clutch. I need to know if she actually loves him or if she's just another ambitious kid who thought Gregory Shaw could open doors. Does it matter? To me it does. Dominic caught her wrist. Vivian, if this is a trap, it's not a trap. She's 29 years old and probably terrified. Vivian pulled free gently. I'll be back in 20 minutes. She left before he could argue further. The West Garden was accessed through a side door off the main corridor. It was one of those carefully manicured outdoor spaces that rich people pretended was nature. Sculpted hedges, a small fountain, ambient lighting that made everything look like a movie set. Celeste was standing by the fountain in a champagne-colored dress that probably cost 3 months of her salary. She looked young and scared, and somehow even more beautiful under the soft lights. When she saw Vivian, her face did something complicated. Thank you for coming, Celeste said. Vivian stopped a few feet away. What do you want? I know you know about us. Congratulations on figuring that out. Celeste flinched. I didn't mean for this to happen. No one ever does. He told me you two were essentially separated, that the marriage was over and everything but paperwork, that you'd been living separate lives for years. Vivian laughed, high and sharp. And you believed him? I had no reason not to. Except for the fact that we're still married. Still living in the same house, still appearing at events together, still performing being a couple for anyone who's watching. He said that was for appearances, for the business. Of course he did. Vivian took a step closer. Let me tell you what Gregory Shaw is very good at, Celeste. He's good at making you feel special, like you're the only person in the world who understands him, like his marriage is this terrible burden he's been carrying alone, and you're the first person who's made him feel alive in years. Celeste's eyes were shining. That's not...
Did he tell you about his first affair?
Vivian's voice was cold now. Or the second? Or the third? Did he mention that this is a pattern? That every few years he finds someone new and exciting and makes them believe they're different from all the others? You're lying. Am I? Ask him about Rebecca Chen or Amy Whitmore, or the paralegal from his attorney's office whose name I can't even remember because there have been so many. Celeste's face went pale. I don't believe you. I don't care if you believe me. Vivian was close enough now to see the mascara starting to run at the corners of Celeste's eyes. But you came here for a reason, so tell me what you want. Celeste's composure cracked. I want you to let him go. I want you to stop making this harder than it has to be. Gregory loves me. He wants to build a life with me, and you're standing in the way because you can't accept that it's over. The audacity of it stole Vivian's breath for a moment. This girl, this child who'd known Gregory for 8 months, thought she understood anything about what Vivian had sacrificed, endured, survived for 22 years. You think I'm the problem? Vivian's voice was shaking now. You think I'm some bitter ex-wife clinging to a dead marriage? I think you're scared of being alone. Vivian stepped back. The words hit like a slap, because there was truth in them. She was scared, had been scared for years, scared of becoming irrelevant, scared of losing her identity as Mrs. Gregory Shaw, scared of starting over at 48 years old with nothing but money and rage. But fear wasn't the same as wrong. Do you know what he's planning to do to you? Vivian asked quietly. Celeste blinked. What? Gregory has been routing illegal wire transfers through your login credentials. Millions of dollars. Laundered through shell companies in Zurich. And when the SEC comes knocking, and they will come knocking, your name is all over the paperwork. That's not true. It's completely true. He's setting you up to take the fall if anyone discovers the fraud. You're not his partner, Celeste. You're his insurance policy. You're just saying that to... I have proof. Vivian's voice was steel now. Bank records, wire transfers, your digital signature on documents authorizing transactions you probably don't even remember executing. He's been building a case against you for months. Celeste's breathing was getting shallow. Why are you telling me this? Because unlike Gregory, I'm not interested in destroying people who don't deserve it. You made stupid choices. You slept with a married man. You convinced yourself it was love when it was just ambition wearing a prettier mask. But you don't deserve to go to prison for his crimes. I don't believe you. Then don't. Vivian turned to leave. But when the federal investigators show up at your door, remember this conversation. Wait. Vivian stopped. Celeste was crying now, mascara streaking down her perfect face. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just wanted to see if you actually loved him, if there was something real here that I was destroying. And? Vivian looked at this young woman who'd inserted herself into a marriage she didn't understand and thought she was saving Gregory Shaw from loneliness. I think you love the idea of him, Vivian said finally. The powerful man who chose you, the mentor who saw your potential, the fantasy of being the woman who finally made Gregory Shaw happy. She paused. But you don't actually know him. You know the performance he's been giving you. That's not true. Ask him about the fertility consultations. Ask him why he's been researching embryo storage. Ask him what he told his attorney about the prenup he's planning to make you sign. Celeste's face went gray. I have to go, Vivian said. But Celeste, when everything falls apart tonight, and it will fall apart, remember that I tried to warn you. She walked back into the building and left Celeste standing alone by the fountain. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. She felt like she'd just stepped off a cliff and was waiting to see if there was ground below or just empty air. She made it back to room 12 and closed the door behind her. Dominic took one look at her face. What happened? I think I just made a terrible mistake. Talk to me. I told her. Vivian's voice was barely above a whisper. I told Celeste about the fraud, about Gregory setting her up, about all of it. Dominic went very still. Why would you do that? Because she's 29 years old and she has no idea what's about to hit her, and Vivian's voice broke. I couldn't just let her walk into it blind. Vivian, Dominic's voice was careful. If she tells Gregory, she won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. She's terrified. She thinks I'm lying, but there's a part of her that knows I'm not. And if that part tells Gregory anyway? If he figures out what we're planning? Vivian sank onto the sofa. Then we're fucked. Dominic paced to the window and back. We need to accelerate the timeline, push the embargo up, release everything now before Gregory has a chance to… We can't. The SEC needs the timing to be perfect, or the investigation won't stick. If we jump the gun, Gregory's lawyers will have time to bury evidence. Then what do we do? Vivian looked up at him. We wait. We hope Celeste is too scared to say anything. And we pray that I didn't just destroy 3 weeks of work because I felt sorry for a woman who's sleeping with my husband. They sat in silence for a long time. At 9 o'clock, Vivian's phone buzzed again. Gregory. Where are you? People are asking. She typed back, powder room. Be down in a minute. Another buzz. Dominic, this time. Bloomberg just sent me a message. They want to push the embargo to 10 p.m. Something about coordinating with their legal team. Vivian's stomach dropped. No. What? She showed him the phone. Dominic's face went pale. That gives Gregory an extra 17 minutes. If Celeste told him anything, call them. Tell them the embargo holds at 9:43 or we pull the story entirely. Vivian, do it. Dominic pulled out his phone and stepped into the hallway. Vivian sat alone in room 12, feeling everything starting to slip through her fingers. This was supposed to be perfect, timed down to the second. Gregory's speech at 9:30, the expose hitting at 9:43, the SEC investigation announced by 10, his empire crumbling in real time while Vivian watched from across the ballroom. But now Bloomberg was getting cold feet, and Celeste knew too much. And Gregory was probably downstairs wondering where his wife had disappeared to. Dominic came back in. His face was grim. They're holding at 9:43, he said, but they're nervous. One of their editors is asking questions about source verification, about whether we're sure the wire transfers are legitimate. Of course they're legitimate. Your people verified everything. I know, but they're getting cautious. This is Gregory Shaw we're talking about. If the story is wrong, Bloomberg gets sued into oblivion. The story isn't wrong. I know that. You know that. But they're journalists. They're paranoid by design. Vivian stood up, smoothed her dress. Then I need to go downstairs and make sure everything looks normal. If Gregory suspects anything, this whole thing falls apart. Are you sure you can do that? After the conversation with Celeste? I've been doing it for 22 years. I can do it for 1 more hour. Dominic caught her hand. If anything feels wrong down there, if Gregory seems suspicious or Celeste is acting strange, you text me immediately and we abort. We're not aborting. Vivian, we're not aborting, she said again. I've come too far to stop now. She pulled free and walked to the door. Vivian, she turned back. Dominic was standing in the middle of the room looking at her like he was trying to memorize her face in case this was the last time he saw it. I'll be right here, he said quietly, watching. If you need me, I'm here. I know. She walked out before she could change her mind. The ballroom was packed now. Dinner had been served and cleared. People were drinking and laughing and networking like this was just another night in their carefully curated lives. Vivian scanned the crowd for Gregory. She found him near the stage, surrounded by a small group of men in expensive suits. He was holding court, gesturing with his champagne glass, probably telling some story about a deal he'd closed or a competitor he'd crushed. And standing just behind him, close enough to be part of his orbit, but not so close that it looked inappropriate, was Celeste. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Celeste's face was unreadable. Vivian forced herself to walk toward them. There you are. Gregory smiled when he saw her, that big public smile he used at events. I was beginning to think you'd left without me. Just freshening up. These events are exhausting. Gregory pulled her close and kissed her temple. You look beautiful. Everyone's been saying so. Vivian let him hold her. Let the cameras capture the image of Gregory and Vivian Shaw, the golden couple, still perfect after 22 years. Over Gregory's shoulder, she could see Celeste watching. Her face was pale. Her hands were clasped in front of her like she was trying to hold herself together. I should introduce you to some people, Gregory said. There are a few investors here I want you to charm. Of course. He guided her through the crowd with his hand on her lower back, the same way he used to when they were young and actually in love. They talked to a hedge fund manager from Boston. They talked to a real estate developer from Miami. They talked to the chairman of some foundation Vivian had never heard of. And through it all, Vivian smiled and laughed and said the right things while her phone burned in her clutch, and 9:43 got closer and closer. At 9:20, someone clinked a glass. The ballroom quieted. The chairman of the Whitmore Foundation took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here tonight. Before we begin the evening's program, I want to introduce a man who needs no introduction, a titan of industry, a philanthropist, and a dear friend. Please welcome Gregory Shaw. Applause erupted. Gregory squeezed Vivian's hand. Wish me luck. You don't need it. He walked toward the stage. Vivian stayed where she was, watching him climb the steps, shake hands with the chairman, take his place behind the podium. He looked confident, powerful, completely in control. He had no idea what was coming. Gregory began to speak. Thank you all for being here tonight. The Whitmore Foundation does incredible work, and it's an honor to support their mission. But I want to talk tonight about something more personal, about responsibility, about the obligations we have as people who've been given so much. Vivian's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from Dominic. Something's wrong. Bloomberg just killed the story. The room tilted. She typed back frantically. What? Why? They got a call from Shaw Capital's legal team, threatening a massive defamation suit. They're pulling the story until they can verify everything independently. Vivian couldn't breathe. Another text. WSJ is out too. And Reuters. Someone tipped them off. Someone told Gregory. She looked up at the stage. Gregory was still talking, but now she could see it, the slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth, the way his eyes scanned the crowd like he was looking for someone specific. He knew. Gregory fucking knew. Another text from Dominic. Get out. Now. Leave the ballroom. But Vivian couldn't move. She was frozen, watching Gregory wrap up his speech, watching him smile that perfect public smile. And then his eyes found hers across the ballroom. The smile widened. Before I close, Gregory said into the microphone, I want to acknowledge someone very important. My wife Vivian has been my partner in every sense for over 2 decades. She's been there through every success and every challenge. And tonight, I want to publicly thank her for her unwavering support. The crowd clapped. Gregory's eyes never left Vivian's face. Marriage is complicated, he continued. It requires trust, loyalty, the understanding that we're in this together, no matter what outside forces might try to tear us apart. Vivian's hands were shaking so badly, she almost dropped her phone. Some people believe in fighting clean, Gregory said. Others believe the ends justify the means. I've always thought that how you conduct yourself in battle says everything about your character. He was talking to her. Only to her. The rest of the ballroom might as well have disappeared. So tonight, I want to reaffirm my commitment, not just to this foundation, but to the principles of transparency and integrity that should guide us all. Another text from Dominic. Vivian, leave now. But she couldn't. She was trapped watching Gregory Shaw dismantle her from a stage. Thank you all again for being here, Gregory finished. And Vivian, thank you for everything. More applause. Gregory stepped down from the stage. And instead of working the room like he usually did, he walked directly toward Vivian. The crowd parted for him. When he reached her, he took her hand gently. We need to talk. Upstairs. Private room. Now. I don't think... It wasn't a request. His grip tightened. Not enough to hurt. Just enough to make the point. Smile for the cameras, darling, and walk with me like nothing's wrong. Vivian looked around. Everyone was watching. Photographers, guests, people who would remember this moment later and wonder if they'd seen something important or just another married couple having a private conversation. She smiled. And she walked. Gregory guided her out of the ballroom, down a corridor, into an elevator. He pressed the button for the 3rd floor. They rode in silence. The elevator dinged. Gregory led her down the hallway, the same hallway Vivian had walked earlier, to a door she'd never seen before. Room 9. He opened it with a key from his pocket. The room inside was larger than room 12. Nicer. with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and furniture that cost more than most cars. Gregory closed the door behind them, locked it, turned to face her. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" he asked. Vivian's heart was hammering.
"I don't know what you're talking about." "Please." Gregory poured himself a scotch from the bar. "Don't insult me by pretending. Celeste told me everything. The conversation in the garden. Your accusations about the wire transfers, the threats about federal investigations. Those weren't threats. They were warnings."
"No." Gregory's voice was cold now. "They were manipulations. You were trying to turn her against me, trying to poison our relationship before you could what? Replace me publicly at this event? Make me watch while you promoted your mistress and announced your new life? I was trying to be civilized about this." He drank his scotch in one swallow. "I was going to wait until after the gala. Sit you down. Offer you a generous settlement. Make sure you were taken care of financially." "Taken care of?" Vivian laughed bitterly. "Like I'm a problem that needs managing." "You are a problem, Vivian. You have been for years. But I was willing to be gentlemanly about it, to let you exit with dignity. Until I fought back. Until you tried to destroy me." Gregory set down his glass. "Did you think I wouldn't notice the private investigators? The encrypted messages? The meetings with Dominic Moretti?" Vivian's stomach dropped. "How long have you known?" "3 days. One of my attorneys saw you leaving the Ellsworth Club. Had you followed? Found out about Moretti's little investigation." Gregory smiled. "Do you have any idea how easy it is to discredit people like him? One phone call to Bloomberg's legal department, one threat of a defamation suit, and suddenly your carefully constructed exposé disappears like it never existed. The evidence is real. The wire transfers are real. You can't make that disappear. Watch me." Gregory walked to the window. "By Monday morning, Dominic Moretti will be under investigation for corporate espionage. His firm will be shut down. Every piece of evidence he gathered will be ruled inadmissible because of how it was obtained. And you," he turned back to face her, "you will sign divorce papers that give you $10 million and a non-disclosure agreement that prevents you from ever speaking publicly about our marriage. You'll get a nice apartment, a decent settlement, and the right to disappear quietly. And if I refuse, then I release the prenup from when we got married. The one that says, if our marriage ends because of your infidelity, you get nothing." He paused. "I have photographs of you and Dominic Moretti, entering private rooms together, late-night meetings, you in a hotel lobby at midnight. We never... Doesn't matter. The photographs tell a story. And stories are all that matter in divorce court." Vivian felt the room spinning. "You would lie, destroy my reputation, make everyone think I was the one who cheated." "I wouldn't be lying. You did cheat, maybe not physically, but you've been conspiring with another man to destroy your husband for weeks. That's a betrayal just as profound." Gregory's voice was almost gentle now. "I'm giving you a choice, Vivian. Take the settlement and walk away, or fight me and lose everything. I want to leave. Not until we're done talking." "Let me out, Gregory." "Not yet." He moved between her and the door. "I need you to understand something. I did love you. Once. A long time ago. But people change. Marriages die. And I'm not going to let you punish me for being honest about that." "Honest?" Vivian's voice was rising. "You've been lying to me for months, years probably. You've been stealing from your clients, setting up your mistress to take the fall, planning to humiliate me at the biggest social event of the year. And you want credit for being honest? I'm trying to move on with my life. You're trying to destroy it. There's a difference. Let me out. Vivian, let me out." Gregory stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Vivian walked to the door. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn the lock. "You have until Monday," Gregory said behind her. "Sign the papers or I release the photographs. Your choice." She got the door open, stumbled into the hallway. Behind her, she heard Gregory close the door again. Lock it. She ran. Down the hallway. Into the elevator. Pressed the button for the third-floor lobby, even though she was already on the third floor because her brain wasn't working properly. The elevator doors closed. Vivian collapsed against the wall and felt everything she'd been holding together for weeks finally break apart. The plan was dead. The exposé was dead. She'd failed.
Gregory had won. The elevator stopped. She forced herself to stand up, to smooth her dress, to fix her face into something that didn't look like complete devastation. The doors opened. Dominic was standing in the hallway outside room 12. When he saw her face, he knew immediately. Vivian, enfin.
She walked past him into room 12 and closed the door. Dominic followed. What happened? Where were you? I've been trying to call. He knows. Her voice sounded strange, flat. Gregory knows everything. He's known for days. The expose is dead. Bloomberg killed the story. Everyone killed the story. He threatened defamation suits, and suddenly we're the criminals and he's the victim. Slow down. You're breaky bull. He has photographs of us. Meeting at the Ellsworth Club. Late at night. He's going to claim I was having an affair. That I'm the one who betrayed him. And unless I sign a settlement and a non-disclosure agreement, he's going to release them and destroy me in divorce court. Dominic went very still. Photographs of us doing what? Nothing. Talking. But he'll make it look like more. He'll make everyone believe I was sleeping with you while planning to destroy him. Vivian sank onto the sofa. I've lost. He won. It's over. It's not over. Yes, it is. She looked up at him. Don't you understand? Gregory Shaw just spent 3 weeks letting me think I was in control while he was actually setting a trap. And I walked right into it. I believed I could beat him. I believed I was smarter than him. But I wasn't. I was just angrier. And anger isn't the same as smart. Dominic knelt in front of her. Listen to me. We still have options. The evidence still exists. We can find other journalists, other outlets, who will all receive the same legal threats, who will all decide that publishing a story about Gregory Shaw isn't worth the risk. Then we take it to the SEC directly. Bypass the press entirely. With evidence you obtain through illegal means, evidence that Gregory's lawyers will get thrown out before it ever sees a courtroom? Vivian shook her head. It's over, Dominic. I need to accept that. So you're just going to sign his papers? Take his money? Let him win? What choice do I have? Dominic stood up, paced to the window. I can't believe I'm hearing this. 3 weeks ago, you sat in my office and told me you wanted to destroy him completely. You said you'd rather burn everything down than let him replace you quietly. And now I'm being realistic. Gregory Shaw has more money, more lawyers, and more power than I do. He always has. I was stupid to think I could fight that. You're not stupid. You're scared. Of course I'm scared, Vivian was shouting now. I'm terrified. I just watched my entire plan collapse in real time. I watched my husband stand on a stage and threaten me in front of 300 people without anyone else even noticing. I'm 48 years old with no career and no identity outside of being Mrs. Gregory Shaw. And now I have to choose between signing away my right to ever tell the truth about him or losing everything I have left. Silence fell between them. I'm sorry, Dominic said finally. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I'm sorry I made you think we could actually win. You didn't drag me into anything. I walked in willingly. Vivian stood up, smoothed her dress one more time. I need to go home. I need to think. Don't sign anything yet, please. Give me 48 hours to figure something out. There's nothing to figure out, Dominic. It's over. She walked to the door. Vivian. She stopped but didn't turn around. I meant what I said earlier, about figuring out what comes after, together. There is no after, Vivian said quietly. Gregory made sure of that. She walked out of room 12 and left Dominic standing alone. The elevator ride down felt like falling. The ballroom was still full when she got back downstairs, the party continuing like nothing had happened, like Vivian's entire world hadn't just imploded on the third floor while people below ate overpriced food and drank expensive champagne. She found Gregory near the bar talking to someone important. When he saw her, he smiled. There you are. I was getting worried. I'm leaving. Already? The night's just getting started. I have a headache. Gregory's expression was sympathetic, concerned, the perfect worried husband. Do you want me to come with you? No, stay. Enjoy your triumph. She turned to leave before he could see her face crack again. Vivian? She stopped. Gregory walked over, put his hand on her arm gently, leaned in close enough that his next words were just for her. Think carefully before you do anything stupid, he whispered. You sign those papers and you get a life. You fight me and you get nothing,
Choose wisely. Then he kissed her cheek and walked back to his conversation like he'd just told his wife he loved her. Vivian made it to her car before she started crying. The driver asked where she wanted to go. "Home," she said. "Take me home." But as the car pulled away from the Whitmore Foundation, she realized she didn't have a home anymore. She had a house full of beautiful things that belonged to a dead marriage. She had a life that had been carefully dismantled while she was sleeping. She had nothing at all. The car drove through Manhattan while Vivian sat in the back seat in her green Valentino dress and finally let herself fall completely apart. She'd failed. Gregory had won. And now she had to decide whether to disappear quietly or burn what was left while she still could. The city lights blurred past the window like stars collapsing. And Vivian Shaw, who'd spent 22 years being perfect, finally admitted to herself that she had no idea what to do next. Vivian didn't go home. The driver was heading north on Fifth Avenue when she leaned forward and changed her mind. "Turn around," she said. "Ma'am?" "Turn around. Take me back to the Whitmore." The driver's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. "Are you sure? We're almost to—" "I'm sure." He made an illegal U-turn that earned them 3 angry horns and a middle finger from a taxi driver. Vivian didn't care. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and called Dominic. He answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" "Coming back. Don't leave." "Vivian, what?" "Don't leave," she said again. "I need you to do something for me. Something that's probably illegal and definitely insane." Silence. Then, "I'm listening." "Can you get into Shaw Capital's servers? They're real servers, not the sanitized bullshit they show auditors. Theoretically, but if we get caught, I don't care about getting caught anymore. Gregory just destroyed my plan in front of 300 people. He's threatening to destroy my reputation. He wants me to disappear quietly." Her voice was getting stronger now, steadier. "So I'm going to do the opposite of quiet. I'm going to burn his entire world down and make sure everyone knows it was me. That's a significant change from 10 minutes ago when you were ready to sign his papers. 10 minutes ago, I was in shock. Now I'm just angry." She looked out the window at Manhattan blurring past. "Can you do it or not?" "I can do it. But Vivian, if we go this route, there's no coming back, no settlements, no quiet exits, just complete mutual destruction." "Good. You understand what that means? Your reputation will be destroyed either way. Gregory's going to release those photographs whether I fight him or not. He can't afford to let me walk away with the truth." She took a breath. "So I might as well make sure he can't walk away either." The car pulled up to the Whitmore Foundation. Vivian got out while the engine was still running. She walked through the front doors in her green Valentino like she owned the building, like she hadn't just spent the last hour falling apart. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor took 43 seconds. She counted every one. Dominic was waiting outside room 12. When he saw her face, the dried tears, the smudged makeup, the absolute fury burning in her eyes, something in his expression shifted. "Tell me what you need," he said. "Everything. I want every file, every transaction, every email Gregory's ever sent about the fraud. I want proof that he knew exactly what he was doing, that he wasn't just skimming money, he was systematically stealing from people who trusted him. That's going to take time." "How much time?" "If I call in every favor I have, maybe 6 hours." Vivian checked her watch. It was 10:15. "Do it. I want everything by 4 a.m. "And then what?" "And then we take it directly to the SEC. Not through journalists, not through lawyers. Straight to the federal investigators who don't give a shit about Gregory Shaw's legal threats." Dominic studied her. "This is a different plan than before. More direct. More dangerous. The old plan relied on timing and public pressure. Gregory crushed that." Vivian's voice was ice now. "This plan relies on evidence so overwhelming that no amount of money or lawyers can make it disappear. Can you get it or not?" "I can get it." He pulled out his phone. "But you need to understand, once we hand this to the SEC, Gregory will know it was you. He'll retaliate. Those photographs, let him release them. Let him tell everyone I was having an affair. At least I'll be the woman who fought back instead of the woman who disappeared quietly." Dominic made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. Vivian couldn't hear what he was saying, but she could read his body language, tense, urgent, calling in debts that probably shouldn't be called in.
When he finished, he turned back to her. Okay, my people are moving. But Vivian, you need to stay out of sight until this is done. If Gregory sees you here, if he suspects anything, he already suspects everything. That's why I'm not hiding anymore. What are you going to do? Vivian walked to the window overlooking the ballroom. Down below, the party was still going. Gregory was probably still working the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, performing the role of the successful philanthropist. I'm going back down there, she said. That's a terrible idea. Probably, but I spent 22 years being the perfect wife, smiling when I should have screamed, staying quiet when I should have burned the house down. She turned to face Dominic. I'm done being perfect. I'm going down there, and I'm going to make sure Gregory Shaw spends the rest of the night wondering what I'm planning. You're going to antagonize him. I'm going to terrify him. Dominic walked over to her, put his hands on her shoulders. Listen to me. Gregory is dangerous when he's cornered. If you push him too hard, then he'll do what? Threaten me? He already did that. Try to destroy my reputation? He's already planning that. The only thing he hasn't done yet is realize that I'm willing to lose everything if it means he loses too. That's not revenge, Vivian. That's suicide. Maybe. She pulled free. But at least I'll die standing up instead of on my knees. She walked out before Dominic could stop her. The ballroom felt different now. Smaller somehow. Like Vivian had outgrown it in the last hour. All these people in their expensive clothes drinking expensive champagne, they looked like children playing dress-up. She found Gregory near the stage, deep in conversation with three men who probably managed billions collectively. Vivian walked straight up to them. Excuse me, she said, sliding into the circle like she belonged there. I hate to interrupt. Gregory's face did something complicated when he saw her. Vivian, I thought you went home. Changed my mind. This party's too interesting to miss. One of the men, silver-haired, distinguished, probably owned half of Connecticut, smiled at her. Mrs. Shaw, your husband was just telling us about the Singapore expansion. Was he? Vivian's eyes never left Gregory's face. I hope he mentioned the part about the creative accounting. That's always my favorite part. The smile on Gregory's face didn't move. Vivian's joking. She has a wicked sense of humor when she's had champagne. I haven't had any champagne. She turned to the silver-haired man. Did you know my husband is very good at moving money around? Like a magician. Now you see it. Now it's in Zurich. The other men laughed uncertainly. Gregory's hand found her elbow. His grip was tight. Darling, you must be exhausted. Let me walk you out. I'm not tired at all. I'm energized. Inspired, even. She pulled free. Did you tell them about Celeste? Your brilliant new hire? So talented, so young, so perfect for executing complex wire transfers without asking too many questions. The laughter stopped. Gregory's smile turned to stone. Gentlemen, if you'll excuse us, my wife isn't feeling well. I feel fine. Vivian's voice was getting louder now. People nearby were starting to turn and look. I feel better than I have in years, actually. Clarity is wonderful. You should try it sometime, Gregory. Just tell the truth. About the affairs. About the money. About how you built an empire by stealing from people who trusted you. Vivian. Gregory's voice was low, dangerous. Stop talking. Why? Afraid someone might hear? Afraid these nice men might start asking questions about where their returns are actually coming from? One of the men cleared his throat. Perhaps we should give you two some privacy. They scattered like roaches when the light comes on. Gregory grabbed Vivian's arm and hauled her toward a side door. She let him. Let him pull her into an empty hallway away from the crowd. The second they were alone, his carefully constructed composure shattered. What the fuck do you think you're doing? He hissed. Telling the truth. Isn't that what you wanted? Honesty? You're making a scene. Good. I've been too quiet for too long. Gregory's hand tightened on her arm, hard enough to hurt now. You need to stop, right now, before you say something you can't take back. Or what? You'll release the photographs? Do it. I don't care anymore. You should care. Because those photographs will ruin you. Every friend you have will turn their back. Every charity board will drop you. You'll be radioactive in this city. Then I'll leave the city. I'll go somewhere else and start over. But at least I won't be the woman who let Gregory Shaw get away with everything. He shoved her against the wall. Not hard enough to leave a bruise, just hard enough to make the point.
Listen to me very carefully, Gregory said, his face inches from hers. You sign those papers by Monday, or I will destroy you so completely that you'll wish you'd taken the settlement. I will tell everyone you're unstable, that you've been having affairs, that you tried to blackmail me. I will make you into a cautionary tale about women who don't know when to accept defeat gracefully.
Vivian met his eyes without flinching. Do your worst. Because in about 6 hours, federal investigators are going to have evidence of every crime you've committed for the last 5 years. And no amount of money or lawyers is going to save you. Gregory went very still. What are you talking about? I'm talking about wire transfers, offshore accounts, pension funds you've been systematically looting. All of it documented, all of it verified, all of it about to land on an SEC investigator's desk. You're bluffing. Am I? Why don't you check your servers tomorrow morning and see what's missing? Gregory's face went white, then red. Then something else entirely, a kind of fury that made Vivian's survival instinct scream at her to run. But she didn't run. She stood there and watched him realize that his wife had just declared war. You stupid fucking bitch, he said quietly. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done. I was going to let you walk away. I was going to give you money and freedom and a chance to start over, and you threw it back in my face. You were going to erase me quietly. There's a difference. Gregory's hands were shaking now. If you do this, if you actually go to the SEC, I will make sure you regret it for the rest of your life. I will use every connection I have. I will spend every dollar I have. I will dedicate myself entirely to making sure you suffer. Good. Vivian pushed past him. At least then you'll be thinking about me. She walked away before he could respond. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was hammering. She felt like she'd just jumped off a building and was waiting to see if there was a net below or just concrete. She made it back to the main hallway before her phone buzzed. Dominic, where are you? Hallway outside ballroom. Just had a conversation with Gregory. Jesus Christ, are you okay? Define okay. Are you injured? Physically, no. Get back up here, now. Vivian took the elevator back to the 3rd floor. Dominic was pacing in room 12 like a caged animal. What the hell were you thinking? He demanded. I was thinking that Gregory needed to know I wasn't backing down. You antagonized him at a public event, in front of witnesses. Good. Vivian, Dominic ran his hands through his hair. This isn't a game. Gregory Shaw is a very powerful man who now knows you're coming after him. He's going to use every resource he has to stop you. Let him try. You're not listening to me. If Gregory decides you're a serious threat, he won't just release photographs. He'll plant evidence. He'll fabricate affairs. He'll make you look like a vindictive ex-wife having a breakdown. Then we better make sure the evidence against him is so overwhelming that nobody cares about his stories. Dominic stopped pacing, looked at her with something like awe and horror mixed together. You've completely let go, haven't you? You're not even trying to protect yourself anymore. There's nothing left to protect. Gregory's going to destroy my reputation whether I fight back or not, so I might as well make sure he goes down with me. That's not a plan. That's mutual assured destruction. I know. Vivian sank onto the sofa. Now that the adrenaline was fading, she could feel how exhausted she was, how much everything hurt. But it's the only plan I have left. Dominic sat down beside her. My people are working on the servers, but Vivian, even if we get everything, even if the SEC moves forward with an investigation, this is going to take months, maybe years. And the entire time, you're going to be fighting Gregory's lawyers and dealing with the media circus and watching your life get picked apart in public. I know. Can you actually do that? Can you survive that? Vivian thought about it, about years of depositions and court appearances and tabloid headlines, about watching Gregory's empire crumble while hers crumbled alongside it, about becoming the woman everyone whispered about at parties, the one who destroyed her husband, the bitter ex-wife, the cautionary tale. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know I can't survive signing his papers and pretending none of this happened, so I guess I'll find out. They sat in silence for a while. At 11:30, Dominic's phone rang. He answered, listened, said good twice, and how long? Once. When he hung up, his expression was grim. We're in, he said. My people have access to Shaw Capital's servers. They're pulling everything now, emails, transactions, internal memos, all of it. How long until we have enough to take to the SEC? 3 hours, maybe 4. And if Gregory's IT team notices the breach?
They won't. My people are very good at covering their tracks. Dominic paused.
But Vivian, once we hand this over, there's no calling it back. The SEC will launch a full investigation. Gregory will be arrested. Shaw Capital will implode, and you'll be the woman who made it happen.
I understand.
Do you? Because this isn't just about destroying Gregory anymore. This is about destroying everything he built. His firm, his reputation, the lives of everyone who works for him. Thousands of people are going to lose their jobs because of what you're about to do. Vivian felt that hit, felt the weight of all those lives that would be upended because she couldn't let go of her rage. But then she thought about the pension funds Gregory had looted, the retirees who'd trusted Shaw Capital with their life savings, the people who'd already been destroyed by Gregory's fraud. They just didn't know it yet. How many people has Gregory already hurt? She asked quietly. How many lives has he already destroyed to build his empire? Those employees, they're working for a criminal. They deserve to know that. That's not your call to make. Yes, it is. Because I'm the only one who's willing to make it. Dominic stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city like he was trying to find answers in the lights. I've been doing this for 15 years, he said finally, helping people destroy their spouses, gathering evidence, building cases, and I've never once felt good about it afterward. Because the truth is, nobody wins in divorce. One person just loses less than the other. This isn't about winning. Then what is it about? Vivian joined him at the window. Down below, she could see people leaving the gala, cars pulling up, couples walking out arm in arm like they had functioning marriages and normal lives. It's about making sure Gregory Shaw doesn't get to pretend he's a good man, she said. It's about documentation, making sure the world sees what he really is. Even if it costs you everything? Especially then. They stood there side by side watching the city breathe. At 1:47 a.m., Dominic's phone buzzed. He checked it. We have it, everything. 5 years of fraudulent transactions. Emails discussing the fraud explicitly. Internal memos about covering tracks. It's enough to put Gregory away for decades. Vivian's heart was racing. What do we do now? Now we package it properly. Make sure it's formatted in a way the SEC can use. Include documentation of chain of custody so they know the evidence is legitimate. How long will that take? 2 hours? Maybe less. And then? And then we drive to the SEC field office and hand-deliver it to the night supervisor. By Monday morning, Gregory Shaw will be under federal investigation. Vivian walked to the sofa and sat down. This was really happening. After 3 weeks of planning and 1 night of complete failure, she was actually going to destroy Gregory Shaw. Are you okay? Dominic asked. I don't know. Ask me in a few days when the shock wears off. Vivian, I need a minute. Just give me a minute. Dominic nodded and stepped into the hallway to make more phone calls. Vivian sat alone in room 12 and tried to feel victorious. But she didn't feel victorious. She felt exhausted, terrified, like she'd just set fire to her entire life and was standing in the middle of the flames wondering if this was freedom or just a different kind of prison. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you're planning. We need to talk. Celeste. Vivian stared at the message. Of course Celeste knew. She was with Gregory. She'd probably watched him come back from their hallway confrontation looking furious and demanded to know what happened. Another text. Please. I'm not your enemy. Meet me in the West Garden. 10 minutes. Vivian should ignore it. Should tell Dominic. Should stay up here in room 12 until the evidence was ready and then get as far away from the Whitmore Foundation as possible. But she was so tired of running. She texted back, 5 minutes. And if Gregory's with you, I'm leaving immediately. He's not. I promise. Just me. Vivian stood up, smoothed her dress, checked her reflection in the window. She looked like a woman who'd been crying and fighting and hadn't slept in 36 hours. Perfect. She walked out of room 12 without telling Dominic where she was going. The West Garden was empty except for Celeste. The younger woman was sitting on the edge of the fountain in her champagne dress, mascara streaked down her face, looking about 19 years old and completely shattered. When she saw Vivian, she stood up. Thank you for coming. You have 3 minutes. Talk. I'm sorry. Celeste's voice cracked. For everything. For the affair? For believing Gregory when he said you didn't care anymore. For being so stupid and naive and... I don't need your apology. Then what do you need? Vivian walked closer. I need you to tell me the truth. Did you know about the fraud? About the wire transfers? No, I swear, I executed the transactions he told me to execute. I didn't ask questions. I should have asked questions, but I was so desperate to impress him and... She was crying now. I'm going to prison, aren't I? Probably not. You were a pawn. The SEC will see that. But my career is over. Yes. Celeste sat back down, put her head in her hands. I ruined my life for a man who was using me. Welcome to the club. I don't know what to do. Gregory wants me to lie for him, to say you fabricated everything, that you're having a breakdown. He said if I don't back him up, he'll make sure I take the fall for everything. Vivian felt something cold settle in her chest. And what did you tell him? Celeste looked up. Her eyes were red, but there was something hard in them now, something that looked like the first sparks of fury. I told him to fuck himself. A laugh escaped Vivian before she could stop it. Really? Really. I'm 29 years old. I have an MBA from Columbia. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life covering for a criminal who was planning to throw me under the bus anyway. Celeste stood up again. So I came to find you, because I want to help. Help how? I have access to Gregory's calendar, his emails, his private files, things that even your investigator probably couldn't get. And I want to give them to you. Vivian stared at her. Why? Because Gregory Shaw destroyed my life in 8 months. I can't imagine what he did to yours in 22 years. And because... Her voice broke again. Because you tried to warn me. In this garden. Hours ago. You could have just let me walk into this blind, but you didn't. You tried to save me even though I was sleeping with your husband. I didn't do it for you. I did it because you didn't deserve to be collateral damage. Same thing. Celeste pulled out her phone. I'm sending you everything I have. Emails, messages, calendar entries showing he knew exactly what he was doing. It's not as comprehensive as what your investigator probably has, but it might help. Vivian's phone started buzzing as files came through. She opened one at random. It was an email from Gregory to his CFO. Need the Q3 numbers cleaned before the board meeting. Use the pension fund losses to offset the Zurich gains. Make sure Celeste's credentials are on the authorizations. Plausible deniability if anyone asks questions. Jesus Christ, Vivian whispered. There's more, Celeste said. Dozens of emails like that. He was systematic about it. Careful, but not careful enough. Vivian looked up from her phone. If you testify against him, if you give this evidence to the SEC, Gregory will destroy you. He'll tell everyone you were the mastermind, that you seduced him and manipulated him and orchestrated everything. Let him try. I'd rather be destroyed telling the truth than survive as his accomplice. Something passed between them then. Not friendship exactly, but recognition. Two women who'd both been used by the same man and were both finally deciding to fight back. Thank you, Vivian said. Don't thank me yet. Gregory's not going to go down quietly. He's going to fight with everything he has, and it's going to get ugly. It's already ugly. It's going to get worse. Celeste walked toward the building entrance. But at least we'll be fighting him together, instead of letting him pick us off one at a time. She left. Vivian stood alone in the garden looking at the files on her phone and feeling something shift inside her chest. She wasn't alone anymore. Gregory had spent weeks isolating her, making her think she was the only one who could see what he really was. But there were others. Celeste, Dominic, Helen Marsh, all these people who'd looked at Gregory Shaw and seen through the performance to the rot underneath. She went back inside, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, walked into room 12 where Dominic was hunched over his laptop, coordinating with his team. We have more evidence, she said, showing him her phone. Celeste Lane just sent me everything she has. Dominic looked up. Why would she do that? Because Gregory tried to set her up to take the fall, and she's smarter than he thought. Dominic scanned through the files. His expression got darker with each one. This is incredible. These emails are explicit. Gregory knew exactly what he was doing. There's no way his lawyers can claim this was an accounting error or a misunderstanding. So we have enough? We have more than enough. We have so much evidence that the SEC is going to have to move immediately. They won't be able to sit on this. Vivian's phone rang. Gregory's name on the screen. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. What? Where are you? His voice was tight, controlled, dangerous. Why do you care? Because Celeste just quit, walked out of the gala, and now she's not answering her phone. Maybe she's tired of being your scapegoat. Silence, then. What did you say to her? The truth. That you were planning to destroy her if your fraud got discovered. That she was never your protege. She was your insurance policy. You turned her against me.
No, Gregory. You did that yourself when you decided to use her. More silence. Vivian could hear him breathing hard on the other end. I'm giving you one last chance, he said finally. Come home. We'll talk. We'll figure this out. I'll even drop the affair accusations if you just... No. Vivian,
I said no. You can threaten me. You can release the photographs. You can tell everyone I'm crazy or vindictive or having a breakdown, but I'm not signing your papers and I'm not disappearing quietly. Then you're making a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life. Maybe, but at least it'll be my mistake, not yours. She paused. Oh, and Gregory, you should probably check your servers. I think you might be missing some files. She hung up, set down her phone, looked at Dominic. How long until the evidence is ready to deliver? He checked his laptop. 20 minutes. My people are doing the final formatting now. And then we can take it to the SEC? Then we can end this. Vivian nodded. Walked to the window one more time. The city was quieter now, the gala winding down. Soon everyone would go home to their normal lives, their functional marriages, their certainty that tomorrow would look basically like today. But not Vivian. Tomorrow, Vivian Shaw's life would be completely different. Gregory Shaw would be under federal investigation. Shaw Capital would be imploding, and Vivian would be the woman who made it happen. Are you ready? Dominic asked quietly. Vivian thought about Gregory's face in the hallway, the way he'd grabbed her arm, the threats, the years of manipulation and gaslighting and making her think she was the problem. She thought about the green Valentino dress that was supposed to be her costume for watching his triumph. She thought about Celeste in the garden, young and broken and finally willing to tell the truth. She thought about 22 years of being Mrs. Gregory Shaw and how that woman was dead now, burned away in the last 4 hours until all that remained was someone Vivian barely recognized but was starting to like. Yes, she said, I'm ready. Dominic's laptop chimed. He checked it. It's done. We have everything packaged and ready. 5 years of fraud documented and verified. If we leave now, we can have this on an SEC supervisor's desk by 4 a.m. Then let's go. They gathered everything. The files, the evidence, the emails from Celeste that proved Gregory had known exactly what he was doing. Vivian took one last look around room 12, this anonymous space where she'd spent the last few hours becoming someone new. Then she walked out without looking back. They took the elevator down to the parking garage, got into Dominic's car, a black Mercedes that cost more than Vivian's first apartment, pulled out onto the street. Manhattan at 3 a.m. was a different city, quieter, stranger, the kind of place where anything could happen. Are you okay? Dominic asked as they drove. Not even a little bit. That's fair. They drove in silence for a while. Then Vivian said, what happens after? After we deliver the evidence and the SEC starts their investigation and Gregory's entire world collapses? I don't know. That's up to you. Will you be there? After? Dominic glanced at her. Do you want me to be? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. She looked out the window. I just don't want to do this alone. You're not alone, Vivian. You haven't been alone since you walked into my office 3 weeks ago. I know, but there's alone, and then there's alone. You know? Yeah, I know. They drove past closed stores and empty streets and the bones of a city waiting for morning. At 3:47 a.m., they pulled up in front of a nondescript building in Lower Manhattan, the SEC field office. This was it, the point of no return. Vivian looked at the building and felt everything that was about to happen wash over her. Gregory would be arrested. Shaw Capital would implode. Their marriage would end in public scandal instead of private settlement. Everyone they knew would take sides, and Vivian would be the villain in half those stories. The bitter ex-wife who couldn't let go, the woman who destroyed her husband's empire out of spite. "Last chance," Dominic said quietly. "If you want to turn around, drive away, pretend this never happened. We can still do that." Vivian opened the car door. "No, we can't," she said. She got out. Dominic grabbed the evidence files and followed. They walked up to the building together, through the doors, into the lobby where a tired-looking security guard checked their IDs, up to the third floor where the night supervisor's office was lit up like someone was working late. Dominic knocked. "Come in," a woman's voice called. They walked into an office that looked like organized chaos, files everywhere, coffee cups that had probably been there for days. A woman in her 50s wearing reading glasses and an expression that said she'd heard every story there was to hear. "Can I help you?" she asked. "My name is Dominic Moretti. This is Vivian Shaw. We have evidence of extensive securities fraud we need to report immediately." The supervisor, her nameplate said Janet Torres, set down her pen. "What kind of fraud?" "The kind that involves $40 million stolen from client accounts and pension funds over 5 years. By Shaw Capital." Torres went very still. "Gregory Shaw's firm?" "Yes, ma'am." "Do you have documentation?" Dominic set the files on her desk. 5 years' worth, wire transfers, email chains, internal memos, all verified. Torres opened the top file, started reading. Her expression changed from skeptical to focused to something that looked like fury. She read for 10 minutes straight without saying a word. Finally, she looked up. "Where did you get this?" "From Shaw Capital's internal servers. That's illegal access." "Yes, ma'am." Torres studied them both. "You understand that evidence obtained illegally might not be admissible in court." "We understand," Vivian said, "but it's real. Everything in those files is real. And if you investigate properly, you'll be able to verify it all through legal channels." "Mrs. Shaw, you're Gregory Shaw's wife, correct?" "For now." "And you're bringing me evidence against your own husband?" "Yes." "Why?" Vivian met Torres's eyes. "Because he's a criminal, and I'm done pretending he's not." Torres looked at her for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. "Get me Deputy Director Marchetti. I don't care that it's 4 a.m. Wake him up." She waited. "Marchetti?" "Torres. I'm at the field office. You need to get down here now. We have a major case. Shaw Capital." Pause. "Yes, that's Shaw Capital. I'm looking at evidence of systemic fraud going back 5 years. Documented, verified." Another pause. "I'll be here. Bring a full team." She hung up, looked at Vivian and Dominic. "Neither of you leave this building until we've taken your full statements. And Mrs. Shaw, you understand that this is going to get extremely messy for you personally?" "I understand." "Your husband has powerful friends, expensive lawyers. They're going to come after you hard." "Let them." Torres almost smiled. "All right then, let's destroy Gregory Shaw's empire." She opened another file and started reading. Vivian sat down in a chair that had probably held 100 terrified witnesses. But she wasn't terrified anymore. She was exhausted, wrung out, running on nothing but rage and coffee, and the certainty that she'd done the right thing even if it cost her everything. Dominic sat beside her, reached over, took her hand. She didn't pull away. They sat there together in Janet Torres's office while the first light of dawn started creeping through the windows and Gregory Shaw's world began its final collapse. At 6:30 a.m., after hours of questions and statements and documentation, Torres finally let them leave. "We'll be in touch," she said. "Within 24 hours, we'll have warrants. Gregory Shaw will be arrested by Monday morning." "Thank you," Vivian said. "Don't thank me. This is my job." "But Mrs. Shaw," Torres paused. "For what it's worth, you did the right thing. A lot of people are going to get their money back because of you." Vivian nodded. She and Dominic walked out of the SEC building into Sunday morning Manhattan. The city was waking up, coffee shops opening, people walking dogs, normal life happening all around them. "What now?" Dominic asked. Vivian looked at him. This man who'd helped her burn down her entire life, who'd stood beside her through the worst night of her existence, who was still here, even though the smart thing would have been to run. "Now I need to sleep for about 16 hours, she said. And then her phone rang. "Gregory." She let it ring. It went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text. "I know what you did. The SEC just served warrants on the firm. You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy." Vivian looked at the message. Then she typed back, "I'm not happy, but at least I'm free." She blocked his number, turned to Dominic. "Take me somewhere that isn't my house, or a hotel, or anywhere Gregory Shaw knows about. I need to disappear for a while. Can you do that?" "I can do that." They got in his car and drove north, leaving Manhattan behind. Vivian didn't look back. She was done looking back. Behind her, Gregory Shaw's empire was collapsing. Shaw Capital's servers were being seized. Federal investigators were gathering evidence. The story would break by Monday, and by Monday afternoon, Gregory would be in custody. But right now, in this moment, Vivian was free. Exhausted and terrified and completely uncertain about what came next. But free. And for the first time in 22 years, that was enough. Dominic drove them to a house in Westchester that Vivian didn't know existed. It was tucked away on 3 acres of woods, invisible from the road, the kind of place people used when they needed to disappear for a while. "Who owns this?" Vivian asked as they pulled up the gravel driveway. "A friend. He owes me favors and doesn't ask questions." The house was small, well-maintained, anonymous. Inside it smelled like pine and old books. There was a fireplace that probably hadn't been used in months. Furniture that looked comfortable without trying to impress anyone. Vivian stood in the living room and felt the last 4 hours catch up with her all at once. Her legs gave out. Dominic caught her before she hit the floor. "I've got you," he said quietly. "I can't. You need to sleep. Everything else can wait." He guided her to a bedroom upstairs. She sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the green Valentino that now felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "I can't get the zipper," she said. Her hands were shaking too badly. Dominic knelt behind her. His fingers found the zipper and pulled it down slowly. The dress fell away like dead skin. "Do you have something I can wear?" Vivian asked. He disappeared and came back with a t-shirt that was 3 sizes too big. She pulled it on. It smelled like detergent and safety. "Sleep," Dominic said. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything." Vivian lay down on top of the covers and closed her eyes. She thought she wouldn't be able to sleep. Thought her brain would keep replaying the last 24 hours on an endless loop. But exhaustion pulled her under like a wave, and she was gone. She woke up to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. For 3 confused seconds, she had no idea where she was. Then it all came back. The gala, the confrontation with Gregory, the SEC office, the evidence that would destroy him completely. She checked her phone. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. She'd slept for almost 8 hours. There were 47 missed calls, 23 from Gregory's lawyer. 15 from numbers she didn't recognize, probably reporters who'd already gotten wind of something. 9 from friends who were suddenly very concerned about her well-being. None from Gregory himself. She scrolled through the voicemails without listening to them. Whatever they had to say could wait. There was one text that made her pause. From Helen Marsh. "Saw the news? You did it. Call me when you're ready." What news? Vivian opened her browser and searched for Shaw Capital. The first result made her breath catch. Breaking. Federal investigators raid Shaw Capital offices, CEO Gregory Shaw. Under investigation for securities fraud. She clicked the article. Federal agents descended on Shaw Capital's Manhattan headquarters early Monday morning with warrants to seize documents and electronic records as part of an investigation into alleged securities fraud spanning multiple years. Sources close to the investigation say the probe centers on accusations that CEO Gregory Shaw and other executives systematically misappropriated client funds through offshore accounts. Shaw, 51, has not been arrested but is reportedly cooperating with investigators. His attorney, Martin Breslow, released a statement calling the investigation a vindictive action based on fabricated evidence provided by a disgruntled spouse currently engaged in contentious divorce proceedings. Shaw Capital manages over $8 billion in assets for high net worth individuals and institutional clients. A disgruntled spouse. That's what Gregory was calling her now. Vivian set down her phone and walked downstairs. Dominic was in the kitchen drinking coffee and watching the news on a small TV mounted under the cabinet. When he saw her, he muted it. "How are you feeling?" "Like I just burned down my entire life." "That's accurate." She poured herself coffee. "Have you seen the news?" "All of it. Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. Every major outlet has the story. Gregory's lawyers are calling it a witch hunt. They're saying you fabricated evidence because of the divorce." "Did they mention the emails from his own servers, the wire transfers he authorized, the internal memos discussing how to hide the fraud?" "They're claiming all of it was either taken out of context or illegally obtained." Vivian sat down at the kitchen table. "Will it work? Can his lawyers actually make this go away?" "No. The SEC has too much evidence. Even if they throw out everything my people pulled from the servers, they still have Celeste's testimony. They have the wire transfers themselves, which are verifiable through legal channels. They have enough to build a case." Dominic refilled his coffee. "But it's going to take time. Months, probably. And the entire time, Gregory's going to be fighting back with everything he has." "How bad is it going to get?" "For you? Very bad. Gregory's lawyers are already positioning you as an unstable ex-wife having a breakdown. They're going to dig up every mistake you've ever made, every argument you had, every time you looked at another man. They're going to try to destroy your credibility so thoroughly that by the time this goes to trial, nobody believes anything you say." Vivian drank her coffee and stared at nothing. "I knew it would be like this. I just didn't know how much it would hurt. Do you regret it?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. About Gregory's face when she told him she'd gone to the SEC. About the fear she'd seen there, not of prison or consequences, but of losing control. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. But I'm tired, Dominic. I'm so fucking tired." "I know." They sat in silence for a while. The TV played footage of federal agents carrying boxes out of Shaw Capital's offices. Gregory wasn't in any of the shots. He was probably locked in a conference room somewhere with his attorneys, strategizing his defense. "What happens now?" Vivian asked. "Now you find a good attorney, someone who specializes in high-profile divorces, someone who won't be intimidated by Gregory's legal team. And then you survive. One day at a time, you let the SEC do their job, you tell your side of the story, and you rebuild." "Rebuild into what? I'm 48 years old. I haven't had a career in over 20 years. My entire identity has been Mrs. Gregory Shaw. Now I'm just nothing." "You're not nothing." Dominic's voice was firm. "You're the woman who took down one of Manhattan's most powerful financial executives. That's not nothing." "It's not exactly a resume builder either." "Maybe not, but it's true. And truth matters." Vivian looked at him across the kitchen table. "Why are you still here? You delivered the evidence. Your job is done. You could walk away." "I could. But you're not." "No." "Why?" Dominic set down his coffee cup. "Because 3 weeks ago, a woman walked into my office looking completely destroyed. And somewhere between then and now, that same woman became the bravest person I've ever met. I'd like to see what she does next." Something in Vivian's chest tightened. "I don't feel brave. I feel terrified." "That's what bravery is. Doing the terrifying thing anyway." Her phone rang. Gregory's lawyer again. This time she answered. "Mrs. Shaw." Martin Breslow's voice was professionally sympathetic. "I'm glad I finally reached you. We need to talk." "About what?" "About resolving this situation in a way that's beneficial to everyone involved. My client is prepared to offer you a very generous settlement if you'll recant your statements to the SEC. "Recant my statements?" "Yes. Simply tell investigators you were mistaken, that you were upset about the divorce and may have misinterpreted certain financial documents. In exchange, Mr. Shaw is prepared to offer you $15 million, the Ashmere Drive property, and a very comfortable ongoing stipend." Vivian laughed. It came out sharp and bitter. "He wants to pay me to lie. He wants to offer you financial security in exchange for reconsidering some hasty accusations made during an emotionally volatile period." "The accusations weren't hasty. They were documented, with evidence." Evidence that was illegally obtained, Mrs. Shaw. Evidence that won't hold up in court. You've made a serious mistake, and my client is generously offering you a way out. Tell Gregory that I'm not interested in his money. I'm interested in him going to prison. Mrs. Shaw, chicos. And tell him one more thing. Tell him that I'm not the woman he married anymore. That woman died somewhere between finding that receipt and watching federal agents raid his office. What's left is someone he should have been afraid of all along. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. Dominic was watching her with something like pride. That was a hell of a speech. It was also incredibly stupid. I just turned down $15 million. Yes, you did? I could have taken the money and disappeared, started over somewhere else, built a new life. You could have. So why do I feel like I made the right choice? Because you did. Dominic stood up. Money doesn't fix what Gregory did to you. Prison might not either, but at least you'll know you didn't let him buy your silence. Vivian's phone buzzed again. Not a call this time. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Celeste. I'm testifying before the grand jury tomorrow. Thought you should know. They asked if you'd be willing to testify too. Vivian showed the message to Dominic. Will you do it? He asked. Testify against my own husband? Ex-husband. The divorce papers are already filed, remember? Still, if I testify, that's it. There's no going back. No chance at reconciliation, no private resolution. It becomes a public trial. It's already a public trial, Vivian. Gregory made sure of that when he called you a disgruntled spouse on national news. She was right. There was no going back. There never had been. Vivian typed a response. Tell them I'll testify, whatever they need. She hit send before she could change her mind. The next 3 days were a blur. Vivian met with attorneys, gave depositions, answered the same question 17 different ways for prosecutors who needed to make absolutely sure her testimony would hold up under cross-examination. Gregory's legal team tried to depose her. She refused. They tried to subpoena her financial records. Her attorney blocked it. They released a statement claiming Vivian had been having multiple affairs during the marriage. She ignored it. On Thursday morning, she testified before the grand jury for 4 hours. They asked about the wire transfers, about the offshore accounts, about Gregory's relationship with Celeste, and whether he deliberately positioned her to take the fall for his crimes. Vivian answered every question honestly and completely. When it was over, the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa Chen, told her they had enough to proceed with criminal charges. Mr. Shaw will be indicted within the week, Chen said. Multiple counts of securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He's looking at 15 to 20 years. 15 to 20 years. Vivian tried to feel victorious and felt nothing instead. Just exhaustion and a strange kind of emptiness where the rage used to be. She left the courthouse through a side entrance to avoid the reporters camped out front. Dominic was waiting in his car. How'd it go? He asked as she got in. They're indicting him. Good. Is it? Because I don't feel good. I feel hollow. That's normal. You just testified against someone you were married to for over 20 years. It would be strange if you felt good about it. They drove back to the Westchester house in silence. That night, Vivian couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling and thinking about Gregory, about the man he'd been when they met, the ambitious young executive with big dreams and bigger confidence, the man who'd made her believe they were building something together. That man had been real once. Or maybe he hadn't. Maybe she'd just wanted him to be real so badly that she'd convinced herself the performance was authentic. She got up and went downstairs. Dominic was sitting in the living room with a book he wasn't reading. Can't sleep either? She asked. Thinking too much. About what? About what happens after. When the trial's over and Gregory's in prison and the dust settles. What do you do then? Vivian sat down on the couch beside him. I have no idea. Start over somewhere, I guess. Maybe leave New York entirely. Go somewhere nobody knows who I am. You could do that, or what? Dominic set down his book. Or you could stay. Build something new here. Not as Mrs. Gregory Shaw. As yourself. Whoever that turns out to be. I don't know who that is anymore. Then figure it out. You have time. Do I? I'm 48 years old with no career and a reputation that's been destroyed on national television. What exactly am I supposed to build? Whatever you want. You're brilliant, Vivian. You organized charity galas that raised millions. You managed a household that functioned like a small corporation. You took down one of Manhattan's most powerful men with nothing but determination and borrowed expertise. Those are transferable skills. You're saying I should become a professional divorce consultant? I'm saying you could do anything you set your mind to, including nothing. You have enough money from the settlement to live comfortably for the rest of your life. You could spend the next 40 years traveling or reading or learning to paint or whatever brings you joy. I don't remember what brings me joy. Then start remembering. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Vivian said, "Earlier you said you wanted to see what I do next. Did you mean that?" "Yes. Even if what I do next is messy and confused and takes years to figure out?" "Especially then." Vivian turned to look at him. "I can't promise you anything, Dominic. I can't promise I'll be good company or emotionally stable or anything resembling a functional partner. I'm completely fucked up right now, and I'm probably going to be fucked up for a long time." "I know. And you still want to be here?" "I still want to be here." She kissed him. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate and exhausted and tasted like coffee and survival. When she pulled back, Dominic was smiling slightly. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just, I've been wanting to do that since you walked into my office in that Armani suit looking like you were about to murder someone." "I was about to murder someone. It just took me 3 weeks to work up to it." They went upstairs together. What happened next wasn't perfect or beautiful or anything like the movies. It was messy and real and punctuated by Vivian crying halfway through because everything was too much and she didn't know how to process any of it. Dominic held her while she cried and didn't try to fix it or make it better. Just let her feel what she was feeling until the storm passed. Afterward, lying in bed with the windows open and a cool breeze coming through, Vivian said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For not running away when I turned into a disaster." "You're not a disaster, you're just human." "Same thing sometimes." Dominic pulled her closer. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be another long day." She closed her eyes and for the first time in weeks, slept without nightmares. Gregory Shaw was indicted on 17 counts of securities fraud the following Monday. His bail was set at $5 million, which he posted immediately. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Vivian watched the news coverage from the Westchester house and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just the numb realization that this wasn't over, not even close. The media circus intensified. Every outlet wanted an interview with the wife who'd brought down Gregory Shaw. They offered money, book deals, documentary contracts. Vivian declined all of them. She wasn't ready to tell her story publicly. Wasn't sure she'd ever be ready. Instead, she focused on smaller things, quieter things. She hired a therapist who specialized in trauma and spent 2 sessions a week unpacking 22 years of manipulation and gaslighting. She finalized the divorce. Gregory didn't fight it. His lawyers were too busy with the criminal case to care about the marriage. She got the Ashmere Drive house in the settlement, sold it immediately. Couldn't stand the thought of living there ever again. She bought a smaller apartment on the Upper East Side. Nothing fancy, just enough space for one person rebuilding from scratch. And slowly, carefully, she started figuring out who Vivian Carter was when she wasn't performing the role of someone's wife. She took a course in art history at NYU, learned about painters who destroyed their early work and started over, found it oddly comforting. She started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping women escape bad marriages, showing them that survival was possible even when it felt impossible. She had dinner with Celeste Lane 3 months after the indictment. They met at a quiet restaurant in Brooklyn where nobody knew either of them. Celeste looked different, older somehow. The glowing confidence of youth had been replaced by something harder and more realistic. "How are you holding up?" Vivian asked. "I'm not. I'm barely functioning. I can't get a job in finance. My family won't talk to me because I testified against Gregory. Everyone I know thinks I'm either a criminal or a snitch." Celeste's hands were shaking around her water glass. "I ruined my life." "No, Gregory ruined your life. You're just dealing with the aftermath. Same thing." "It's not." Vivian reached across the table. "Listen to me. You're 29 years old. You have decades to rebuild. You made mistakes, but you also did the right thing when it mattered. That counts for something." "Does it? Because right now it feels like doing the right thing just destroyed everything." It did destroy everything, but sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you have to burn it all down before you can build something real. Celeste looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. Do you actually believe that? Or are you just saying it to make me feel better? Both. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Celeste said, I'm leaving New York, moving back to Arizona, starting over somewhere nobody knows what happened. That's probably smart. Is that what you're going to do? Leave? Vivian thought about it. About the apartment she'd just bought. About Dominic. About the life she was slowly, painfully building from the wreckage. No, she said. I think I'm staying. This is my city too. I'm not letting Gregory take that from me. Celeste smiled weakly. You're braver than I am. I'm not brave. I'm just stubborn. They finished their meal, hugged goodbye on the street, promised to stay in touch even though they both knew they probably wouldn't. Vivian watched Celeste walk away and felt something like sadness mixed with relief. Celeste would be okay eventually. She was young enough to recover, young enough to forget. Vivian wasn't sure she'd ever forget, but maybe forgetting wasn't the point. Maybe the point was learning to carry it. Gregory Shaw's trial began in late March, almost 6 months after the indictment. Vivian attended every day. She sat in the back of the courtroom in simple clothes